I saw on, I think it was your Instagram, a post of you'd got them. I was like, oh, happy days.
Me and the missus have got one, and there's a couple of guys at the local Harley dealership. I walked in after that episode, and they're like that. Look what I got! And you're like, really? Aye, that's brilliant.
Brilliant. Folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, this is Darren and Ian from Average Bikers in a Cave. They have their own podcast, and they very kindly invited me on about a month ago now, isn't it?
About a month, yeah.
And we had the Nationals discussion, and that's where the T-shirts are coming from. Right, folks, welcome to episode 81 of Brew Time. And we've got the Average Bikers in a Cave lads here. How you doing, boys?
Very good, thank you. Yep, just adjusting my lights there.
So much better now that the sun's out. Again, I suppose for everyone, if the accent wasn't clear and gave it away, we are obviously based up in Glasgow, and it's been absolutely horrific for 2 months. So,
well, for about 2 years, give or take a couple of days. For
the whole of eternity, the weather's been crap.
I tell you what, your audio is fantastic. Okay. Oh, it's so good to have people on that obviously have done a podcast before and know about the audio. Oh, it's awesome.
Yes. Although Ian was going to, he's got one of these little modulator things that makes his voice kind of go like helium and all that kind of stuff. And he went, "Do you think I should put this on?" No.
I don't know what you were talking about there.
You couldn't fucking help yourself.
Couldn't resist it.
Hours of fun. Hours.
I know, absolutely.
That's why he doesn't get to do it remotely. 9 times out of 10, he's got to come here to do it because he can't be trusted in his own.
I was going to say, you boys on your podcast, you pretty much you do it like all in the same room, don't you? I've seen even with guests, you can have quite a group of people there doing your podcast.
Yeah, so I think you were the only real, other than the time Ian got the vid, you know what I mean? We tried it remotely, and it was an editing nightmare to get the audio balanced. But other than that, you were the first kind of remote guest, that we'd done, and Zoom seems to work a treat. It does really give clear, nice audio. So, but 9 times out of 10, we will be either here, set up in the back, or we've started going on location. Mm-hmm. So last week we went across to the local Harley dealership, and we had a chat with the managing director and a couple of the sales guys, and they do a kind of Facebook Live thing. So we interviewed those, which was great because we only had 4 mics and there was 5 of us, so it was like yeah.
Pass it.
You know what I mean? Aye. Which again, we survived.
I'm glad it was you that was editing the audio on that one. I'm glad it was you.
Yeah, and then my computer started playing silly buggers. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's
I've had a nightmare recently. I've just done this off-road, a 2-part vid series for an off-road thing I did with Phoenix motorcycle training, and I thought I would be smart because I've got myself a GoPro 10 and a 9 now, and they both seem to be behaving themselves with these. I know, with these new. Have you seen them? These new enduro batteries GoPro's released. I'm not sponsored by GoPro in the slightest, but they've released these. They call them enduro batteries, and they're supposed to tolerate cold weather much better than the original blue ones, but they not only last longer, but I've had, touch wood, I've not had any of the massive issues I was having before with corrupt files and with the GoPro just not recording so far anyway. So I was recording in 4K.
Lucky you.
I know. I was recording in 4K and thought, I'll be smart, I'll edit it all in 4K. My computer just fell over. It can't cope with it.
Yeah,
it just can't cope.
I record in 4K, but I'll edit in 1080p.
Yeah.
Simple as that, because I just find you've got more variety in what you can do with the file once it's in there, because you're zooming in without loss of quality and stuff like that. So
aye. Well, the thing is, I'm a bit of an Apple fanboy, and they've just released that Mac Studio. Have you seen that?
Well, I've not just seen it. I've sat and drilled over it.
Oh my God!
I'm just wondering whether I go for my left or my right kidney.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? It's just
the thing is,
like,
you spend just under $7,000 on the computer, and it's an amazing machine.
Aye.
But you don't get a keyboard, you don't get a mouse, you don't get a screen with it, and you're like, it's now just under $9,000 to get the computer, the keyboard, and like a mouse,
and a screen.
Yeah.
That's a bike.
I'll be waiting for that. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, but I don't have a garage for another bike, so I think maybe I might, if I'm going to. No, to be fair, I've got the screen, I've got the keyboard, so would only need the studio.
Yeah,
I'll rent you space in my garage if you need it. I'll rent you a little wing of my garage. I say wing, it's not that big, but I'd make space if you were paying for it. You know what I mean? I don't talk to me about GoPros. I was away last weekend.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I was away last weekend doing in Wales, doing the Mick X Dance experience. But it was done as part of Harley Davidson, so we were doing their Pan America off-road day, which was absolutely brilliant. But I was like to Ian, right, I'll fully charge the GoPro, and it's a 7 Black, so it is an older one, but it's barely been used, you know what I mean? But I was like, I'll charge it up full, nice big SD card in there, turn it off, in the bag, we'll get down there, we'll connect it up, whole day, we'll get at least 2 or 3 hours worth of good footage in and out of wherever he takes us. Got it there, got 20 minutes of footage, and it died. And I went, I just fully charged that with the. So.
Oh, did you leave the battery in it?
It switched itself back on in my rucksack on the drive down, and decided to record 2 hours of darkness.
Yep. Yeah.
So
that's the thing with the anything other than the 10, I've found. If you leave the battery in it, even if when it's switched off, well, I have mine on the one touch record, all my GoPros. So once the battery goes in, it's on standby, but it just drains the battery as soon as that battery goes in. The 10 doesn't seem to do it. So, well, certainly not nowhere near to the same extent.
My 10 will sit in its case for ages and ages, and then you just turn it on, and it's still got.
And it's fine.
Got all the charge I had. So,
although that does beg a question, and I know we're going slightly, we're just wandering here. Which I mean, if anyone's listened to our show, that's 9 times out of 10 of what we do.
Same
how did you go? What do you think of the Because obviously Ian's just bought a 4K, the Ghost 4K, and I was going to buy the same, but I noticed you've started doing a little thing. You've doing stuff with in-off, but then there's another company that are doing. Is it like
Technologic?
Yes. Have you tested any of their stuff yet? Is it any good?
I've not. I actually meant to be. I've got it here. They gave me the DC-1, which is their front and rear helmet camera, but that's quite old. That's been around for quite a while. And then they've given me this one, the XV-1, which is just front.
Yes, and that's the 2K one. Yeah,
2K. Yeah. I've got to admit, so far I've not tested it. I was supposed to be doing it this week, but my K5 Innov system, the front camera, it looks like I didn't shut the SD card properly, because when I rode to Salisbury to do that off-road day, it was torrential rain, and the camera started playing up from there. So it looks like water's got into it and corrupted the camera. So that's a way getting fixed at the moment. So when that comes back, I want to test the Innov K5 and have the GoPro running, and then do the same with the XV1 as well, just so I can have a comparison between like GoPro and like a dash cam, another dash cam system. So it is coming out, but it's probably going to be about another month, I think, before I have all that done.
That's something we did. Remember, we gave it a shot.
Because I had the K2. I had the K2 on my. I'm going to say on my old bike. But yeah, I had the K2 on the old bike, and then we went out with the GoPro and the 360 and the, what was the other thing? The wee Osmo. Was it the Osmo?
With the Osmo Action. I've got quite a few cameras, to be fair, right? I've got this kind of slight collector's thing that I'm like, oh, new camera.
Shiny.
Shiny. We had a Insta 360, 1X2. We had the Insta Go 2, the Osmo Action K2s as well. And I think we took a GoPro as well. You had a GoPro as well.
I had my 7 on.
You had your 7 on as well, to try and compare them all. 360 was great. Apart from the fact I was riding about with a big pole coming out my back.
That new 1X2 is good. That new Insta 360 1X2 is real good. Very reliable. The most reliable camera I think I've used so far. I've had, touch wood, no issues at all with it.
I know boys, they released a 1RS as well, and I'm like,
it's just come out, isn't it? Do you have a lubrication of choice at hand? Excellent, because I'm running a bit dry here. Shall we slange?
Nice slange.
Slange. Excuse us, folks. That's good.
Glug. A wee cheeky wee dunkle.
That's the one. Right, we sort of got straight into just a chit chat there. Right. How about we give people a little bit of a backstory as to who you guys are, how you started, and what you do?
Sure.
Over to you guys.
Who wants? Ian, do you want to go?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We are Average Bikers in a Cave. We've got a podcast running for about, many episodes now, Dan? 16, 17 episodes now?
18. We're recording next week, will be 19.
That's why we can drink. Our episodes can officially drink now. We've got 18 episodes in.
That's it.
And Dan and I met when we worked together at a telecommunications company together.
We'll not give them any thingy. Airtime,
yeah, absolutely. I've been riding since 2004. I was made redundant when I worked for the AA, and that's the Automobile Association. Just to clarify, with any,
why were you made redundant? Glug.
And I used my redundancy money then to buy a bike, and sit my test and buy the bike, do a DAS. So I'd been riding for quite a while, and then when I was in working with Darren mentioned he was doing his CBT, and then doing obviously your direct access, or what is it? What's it called now? I can never remember.
Direct access.
DAS. Yeah. It's just
that's going around the block 4 times, bits. And can you stop the bike? And that's you passed.
Yeah.
And
I still don't understand all that.
And then we started a wee kind of motorbike club chat, hadn't we, in WhatsApp with a couple of other boys that were in.
I did a couple of wee runs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then the two started working for a guy who did a podcast on probably one of the most super interesting subjects ever, wasn't it? What was it called again, Dan? Because
Think Omnichannel.
That was it.
Think Omnichannel.
It was all about contact centres and all this kind of dull stuff that you really had no interest in.
Wow.
And I thought, and at that point, I was like, if this guy can make a podcast, anyone can make a podcast. And as obviously we talked before, but this is obviously when I'd started listening to your stuff because I'd just been watching on YouTube, and then the podcast came out and I started listening, and that's when I went to the guys in the little group and went, listen lads, I think we should do a podcast. I think we should create a podcast. We should talk, because we all love bikes, nothing to do with bikes. And all the other guys went, no, I don't know if I could commit to that. And Ian went, yeah, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Anything to get out there.
And my background, I trained as an actor, so I'm not particularly backwards and coming forwards at times, so I'm quite happy to chat away about rubbish and stand in front of a camera, stand on a stage, so I was quite comfortable. And at the time, I was working with in a similar part of your team, but my job at the time was doing live demonstrations and stuff online on the website. So I had a team of guys that would go online and would demonstrate phones and would talk about all this kind of stuff. So I was quite comfortable around the technology and everything, and being into filmmaking and all that kind of stuff, just anything to do with media, I was like, yeah, I'll do it, absolutely. So that was kind of how it was born, wasn't it?
Aye, and then it was just a case of, right, where we're going to do it. And obviously we just built the man cave, and I went, why don't we just have a couple of average bikers just in the man cave chatting? And then it was like, here, there's something in that, do you know what I mean? And there you go. You know what I mean? Kind of thought, we'll do the first one, absolutely nobody will listen to it, and we can then say, well, we tried it and it failed, but then actually people started listening, and we thought, I suppose we better do another one then. So we got through COVID, and then this year we've kind of went, right, we're going full obviously we're not chucking our jobs, just in case anyone's listening. We're not resigning.
No.
I wouldn't recommend it. I really wouldn't recommend it.
But yeah, so that's it. And we essentially just, our episodes are, at the minute we're kind of one a month, but we're trying to bring them in to go to almost one a fortnight in between the day jobs.
I think now that we've mastered the remote side of things, it will be easier to be able to do that, because we don't have to necessarily worry about travelling and get ourselves all around.
If you can be trusted with that thing, you've got that toy.
Of course I can.
And that's no, look, it's not on the shelf in the background.
My hands are up here. My hands are up here.
Is this the voice module?
Voice module, I think. Yes, it's definitely not something rubbery that sits on a back shelf. Just in case anyone else is listening.
TMF.
Exactly.
Another thing I do is I present karaoke, so it's quite good to have something that you can stick harmony on and stuff on when you're singing. So there you go. So that's your
excuse.
That's my excuse. It's just great fun to play with. Do you know what I mean?
Again, it was shiny and he bought it.
That is that.
What are we talking about here? The butt plug?
Aye, obviously.
Oh, of course. The musical one.
Are you still talking about a modulator? No, we're past that. We're into the all funny section.
The beauty of your lad's setup with the two of you there is that, you know, even if I know from my side, because I rely on having guests come in, you know, like every week you need to have a guest lined up, and it can cause problems at times. A couple of times there's been a break in my podcast purely because I had somebody lined up and like at last minute they've had to pull, you know, like they might get COVID or there's an emergency somewhere, family emergency, and they just can't do it. So you all of a sudden you find yourself, I've got no guests here. So, you know, the beauty with you lads is if it comes, you can just sit and chew the fat between the two of you, can't you? And it's still going to be an entertaining podcast.
Yeah, again, I think the format we tried to, because obviously we didn't want to mimic what you already had because you were well ahead, and it was the kind of, how do we do something not Top Gear-ish, but do something that's got a little bit of news, and then pick something that we always kind of talk or moan about, and then kind of cover that off, and that's how the kind of big question thing was born. So
mainly moan, to be fair, but
aye. Yeah, I mean, we did think we'd go in and end up disagreeing every week, and I think there's only been 1 week we've disagreed. Every other week we're like, no, you're absolutely right. Aye. Idiots. They're all idiots.
I don't even think the disagreement was that particular big a disagreement, you know?
No, it was like a secondary opinion. But again, we always say as long as one person's listening, we'll just keep doing it because we actually have a good giggle and a good laugh at making it more than anything else. Other than when editing becomes a nightmare. And I think it was at that point I had that sudden appreciation of everyone that does stuff on YouTube, just how much of a ball ache it is to get the editing done. Because I was like, I'm only doing audio and it's a pain in the rear.
But you also appreciate how much easier the edit is if you can sort out like your audio, if it's just the audio thing that you're doing, if you can sort out the audio with a good mic, be somewhere fairly quiet, you know, mic discipline, being up close to it. It helps massively, doesn't it, when it comes to actually edit the final piece.
Aye, and I've got on my board, I've got a couple of little tapes because I know what channel Ian goes in when he gets here, and I know exactly what level he got. So that bit's all cut out now. We're just at the point of straight going in, and all of the and then what would normally be a comfortable pause in the conversation because you can see that person in the room. But when you do the audio and play it back, you go, why is no one talking? That's been like
sounds like about 4 hours, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got past that point where we're just constantly talking. I mean, it's easier to put a break in than take a break out. It's just a nightmare to edit. So,
right. So I'm sure if you've seen my podcast, you know my format. Basically, it relies quite heavily on the viewer, listener input across my socials. People submit some questions. I've got to admit, I was really late with posting up on the public socials that you guys were coming on. We got a couple on Instagram, but I did it a wee while ago on Patreon, so we've got a healthy list of questions there.
Oh, that's good. Because the worry was we come on here and people go, who are these two twits?
You know, I was at a retirement bash last night up in London, and I got home. It was about, I think, 1 o'clock, 1:30 this morning. I was sat on the couch with the dog, and I suddenly thought, shit, I've not posted up on social. So I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? But yeah, Patreon has come to the fore, as they always do. Thank you very much, folks. So how about we just crack on with questions and just see where it takes us? Yeah,
go for it.
How long have you guys got?
As long as you need.
Well, don't say that to me. I can talk for hours and hours.
Although the Tins and Tours one went on for ever, absolutely ever, and I can't believe how much beer was put away on that one.
It's not just Sean Faye can drink as well. They were both perfectly all right. I mean, I would be on the floor. He drank, I think, 30 bottles of beer.
I know. It's like that. I'd have been like,
oh man. I know. Right, we'll go to Patreon first of all, folks. So that's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Dale Potter. Hi, chaps. I've just moved on to the 2020 S1000 XR. Do you find that cornering an adventure-style bike requires a completely different technique to other bikes, such as a naked? Ooh, what do you think to that? Well, I wouldn't consider the XR an adventure-style bike, personally.
But is the XR not just really a 1250, but I mean, oh no, it's the RR on stilts, isn't it? The XR.
Yeah, I think they're miles different. I think they're totally different. Totally different.
Having just bought another adventure bike, having been
I was going to
off.
say, you're far more qualified to talk about that one.
Because
I've only been on an adventure bike a couple of times and dropped them. So,
yes.
you know.
In fairness, and it wasn't his.
It wasn't mine. That's fine.
Do tell. Everyone likes a drop story.
It was the launch of the Pan America and Harley Davidson, and we went out, and Harley had supplied West Coast. So thankfully, it wasn't even one of West Coast bikes. It was one of Harley's own bikes that they supplied for the day, and I'd signed up. But it was terrible weather, wasn't it? The weather was awful. It was pouring with rain. I've got wee short legs. The adaptive ride height works on it, but it only works as you slow down. So when you do an emergency stop, there's that couple of seconds delay, and unfortunately the boy in front of me hit the brakes on a clear junction. So I was like, I don't know why he did that, and I just had to hit the brakes and put my foot down, and the road was on a slope.
Oh no!
So
it was the ultimate road. It was wet. It was on a hill, and it was on an off camber, and it went
so. Then I just went timber. You know, luckily there was quite a few of us out there. We got it lifted back up and I got it back to Harley. But by that point, I was like, yeah, never again, never again.
What did you think of the Harley then? What did you think of the Pan America?
Actually, I loved riding it though. I absolutely loved riding it. And actually, you're right, going round corners and things on the Pan America was surprisingly pleasant. I think, to be fair, on those ones, they had a couple of thousand miles on them, so the tyres are well scrubbed in and everything like that.
Yeah.
So
I can talk. I can talk about it now because we announced it last week. But I picked up my brand new 1250 Pan America Special this morning.
You're brave going for the first generation. I mean,
I know, absolutely. I've seen the 2022 come out, and they've only really changed a couple of things on it. I know they've added the option to put a quick shifter in, which you mean. Again, I've had quick shifters in my last two bikes and never really bothered with them. Only when you were kind of getting up, going on the motorway would I use them. I'm a fan of the clutch, but yeah, I do like that bike. Do you know what I mean? I do really like that bike. I get the point. I think there is a slight different style in riding, because the difference between that and my 1250 RT is a slightly different style of riding, I think. I think you can be a bit more upright on the adventure bike than the RT. You could you'd almost have to lean it a little bit more over and needed a little bit more counter steer to power it through. Whereas on the big adventure bike, it just seems to kind of go around a bit easier and it is a little bit more upright. In terms of comparing it to a naked, I don't know, it's been a while since I've ridden a naked. You know what I mean? I wouldn't imagine there would be.
The big adventure bikes, they're all different across the manufacturers. If we just go for the big ones, you know, your sort of 1200, 1250s, if you go at that sort of CC level, they ride differently, all of them, I think. Maybe the Ducati and KTM are fairly similar. Good, punchy, hooligan bikes. Definitely the most dynamic, I think, out of all the big ones. The GS is just refined. It's just there. You know, it's not at the top, but it's not at the bottom. It's in there, and it'll keep hold of the ones at the front. It'll never beat them. You know, you just won't beat the Ducati and KTM in terms of punch and acceleration and top speed. But they all ride roughly the same, and I think they all ride, as you said, like a standard road bike. You know, you're leading with your head and your shoulders, counter steering, in you go. Things like the Triumph, the big Triumph Explorer, certainly at speed, if you're pushing it in the mountains and stuff, that handles way more like your traditional, like the off-road style, you know, so you throw the bike in and then follow with
your thingy.
It definitely handles much better when you're riding hard, when you do that. Throw the bike in, try and keep yourself upright and just, you know, go with the bike, really let the bike do it. So I think answering your question there, Dale, it depends on what manufacturer you're dealing with, what actual big adventure bike you're talking about. The XR though, I don't. Yeah, the XR to me, it just never did it. It just never did it to me. It was like what we were chatting about. It's supposedly the RR engine tweaked in a bit and just put on a more comfortable frame. And in my head, I'm just like, well, I think for me, I'm 20 stone, 6'3", and I think for me anyway, I find the RR really comfortable bike to ride. Genuinely, I find it
really
quite a spacious. Yeah, I find it really quite.
Didn't you feel like a monkey on a trike at a zoo?
No, and compared to like a traditional 1000cc sports bike, I found the RR really quite roomy and comfortable. I'd go far as to say it's a sport tourer, to be honest. It's a sport tourer that can also kick most people's arses on the road and on the track. It's amazing. So a cracker bike. And the XR just didn't do it for me.
And the RR sounds absolutely phenomenal. There's a guy who goes by the front of our house and you can hear it coming and you just know it's an RR.
Aye.
And you go,
it's effortless. It's effortless.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dale does pose a good question though. Do you know what I mean? That is so... I think it was one of the very first things when I bought my first big bike, and albeit it was a mistake buying the bike I bought, but you buy your first bike and you've learned on for me it was an MT-07, so it was, it was a naked bike, but you learn on that and it is very... you are very upright, and that's the way you're taught to ride. Whereas when I would come off of that onto my own MT-125, you were literally, it was at full throttle, constant, because you were that used to just going, I'll just go that way, and you'd be round the corners and no problem. And then you change bike and you buy a completely different style of bike. It is in some instances a completely different style of riding. Do you know what I mean? So if you let the XR, you drive it like a naked bike, you build up, counter steer, blah blah blah. You take that and you go and buy, say, a Harley Davidson Heritage or a Indian Scout or something like that. Completely different. You need to manhandle it round a corner.
Aye.
Rather than rather than using your body and your counter steering, everything that's natural to you. It's one of those ones.
And it's also like it all depends. It also depends on the wheels. What sort of diameter wheels are you riding? What tires have you got on? Because certain tires will feel differently and they'll give you more or less feedback. They'll act differently in hot weather or cold weather or wet weather. And it's just, I think it's just, as you say, it's a question of getting your mind locked into what style of bike you're on now and how it handles to how you're riding. Really, it's just get out and put miles on it, and that is it. It's just the only way you will find your own way, and especially modern bikes. Modern bikes, you can tweak so much of the settings. Do you know what I mean? Whether that too
be
much.
Exactly. Whether that be, whether that be your front, rear suspension, and then BMWs especially, you know what they're like because you've got the 1250. There's just so many settings in that. That LCD, you can go in and change loads and loads of stuff on it, and you're thinking you just need to pick a setting, most of which is automatic, and then just ride and see how it feels. And then at some point you go, actually, there's something just a little bit, I need to change something ever so slightly. Do you know what I mean? And then just make that tweak, and then again cut 100 miles on it and see how it is, and then and eventually you will just have your own arse groove in the seat, and it'll be perfect how you've got it set up. And then it's usually at that point you go, oh, here, that's a nice bike, and you wonder if you set that
again. I was about to say, does that know what you did with yours, Dan? Just as you bought all that, you went, Pan America.
Pretty much. I was at the point where I could get my RT to go around bends like, I was like half a policeman riding it, do you know what I mean? It was like whoosh, the way you go. Sometimes to my daughter's detriment, because she'd be sitting on the back and she'd tap and go, remember your sorry, I forgot you were on there. And then, you go, God, I'm really getting the knack of this. Oh, that's nice, it's shiny. I'll have one of those, please.
Have you tried the Goldwing? Did we chat about the Goldwing?
We did chat about the Goldwing.
We did, yeah. Fun enough, yeah.
No, I haven't got the Goldwing yet. We're going to take a wander. We're trying to get pally with our guys at Ducati across the road, because we know the guy that kind of runs it, or we know a friend of a friend knows the guy that runs it. So we'll try to get in with him, because I've always wanted to ride the Diavo. And purely from a selfish point of view, I want to ride a Diavo. But yeah, and I'd like a decent ride on the Multistrada, on the V4 if they've got one, and just because again it looks like an absolute weapon. The only problem is then that's when I go, God, I really want that bike next. Exactly. No.
And the worst thing you can do is ride the bike. If you don't want to buy a bike, don't ride it.
Don't ride it.
You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, but we're in the wrong game for that.
I don't know. I don't seem to get any test rides anymore. I need to start chasing everybody up again, I think.
Surely you must be due the wee Sinus GP or GX 125 thing. Have you not had that yet? Everybody else seems to have had it.
Do you know, I found an email from him. So, Sinus, if you're listening or watching, I do apologise. But I'm afraid you fell victim to the junk folder because somebody else was like, I sent you an email. I'm like, I haven't got it. So I checked the junk and I found a few in there actually. So apologies, Sinus. There was one in there from like Christmas time about this GPX thing. The trouble is, once you miss that boat, once you miss the boat of everybody, that first week of when a bike comes out, if you don't do a vid in that time, you've pretty much lost it, really. Unless you do it 6 months later and you sometimes get a secondary spike, you sometimes pick up that sometimes. Once the wave's gone and then there's no fresh content on it, sometimes that happens.
Aye.
Yes. Right.
We might do that with the Sportster S. What it's like to ride after an accident. That might be quite good fun. So, for those that don't know, I had a Sportster S for 4 days and hit a patch of diesel and it decided to turn into a bit of an ice rink. So and
Harley don't keep parts on spare.
No, so
I mean,
and it's a nightmare at the moment trying to get parts for anything, isn't it?
That is the problem.
Totally.
So, how long have they said then for you?
I got a phone call last week, funnily enough, hopefully end of next week. So I'll get
all right. Okay. So nearly there.
Nearly there, if not a week after. So plus all my custom bits that I added onto it, hopefully we'll be on it as well. So all good. I'm looking forward to that now. But that's a bike you have to be fair, that's a bike with the big front wheel, that's a bike you really have to fight around a corner at low speeds. It's great, at higher speeds, but I found when we took it out for a test ride, just going round like really slow around a corner was quite, a wee bit of oomph to put it round,
Have you had this Sportster S out yet?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched it.
I've got to admit, I preferred, in terms of riding experience, I preferred the Fat Boy. I know they're different types of bikes, but for me, it was just like
the Terminator bike.
Do you know what? I think it's probably everything that goes with the Fat Boy. It's that the whole sort of attitude that the bike is perceived to have and the image that it's got. Yeah. I just felt there was a much more character from it. The Sportster S, I like the engine, same sort of engine as in the Pan American, isn't it? And the engine to me is like, you can do a lot with this. And I think with a bike, as you've said, you've put some custom bits and stuff on it.
Yeah.
You need to do that, don't you?
Custom bits of tarmac. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's harsh. I think you need to do that because it comes out the factory quite plasticky, doesn't it? And I looked at it and thought, if you spent some money and customized that, you could turn that into a really good looking bike.
Yeah, I mean, I've added a screen, I've added the backrest and rear pegs and all that, and I'm now looking into seeing what it'd be like to get it wrapped. A different colour, because if for anybody that listens to our podcast, I've got an obsession with black and yellow bikes, right? So just about every bike I've had has been black and yellow. And the Harley isn't; it doesn't come in black and yellow. So I'm like, how can I turn my bike into a black and yellow bike? So and that'll just hopefully make it slightly different, a bit more head turning, and as it comes off. But I'm not a Harley fan in the sense of the pop kind of thing isn't why I want to ride the bike. That I like the Sportster S because it is different from. I'm kind of buying it because it's different from most Harleys rather than because it's the same as most Harleys. And I'm probably the opposite of most Harley customers in that sense, But I also see it as a bike that I'll have for a wee while. But it's not the bike that So the reason I got the Harley was because my wife very kindly agreed that I could keep my old bike because I've got a Triumph.
She's a keeper. She's a keeper.
I've got a Triumph Street Cup, and I just love that bike for various reasons. The retro look, but also there's sentimental reasons why that particular bike's important to me. And I did not want to get rid of it. but I wanted a new bike. So
Aye.
basically a lot of begging. Well, actually, to be fair, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Just went out and bought it.
If anyone's listening, don't take that as solid advice.
Yeah, no. Oh, if you are listening, do. If I floated the idea, and then as soon as even the chance that the hook wasn't on it, it was potentially going to catch. I mean, God, just go for it. There you go.
Bought.
There we go.
Aye, I can imagine that with my wife.
Like that. Marriage guidance a la bikers in a cave.
That's episode 20's big question.
Also sponsored by Mackenzie Divorce Solicitors.
More like MacArthur's funeral directors.
I think what made it especially exciting to get that bike was that Harley gave me it that day. They had one in stock, so I got it that day. So not only did I go out and buy it, I didn't have time to kind of lay any groundwork. And it was coming to the house.
Literally turned up at home with a new bike.
Well, my wife came home and went, "Why is your old bike not in the garage?" And I went, "Oh, because there's another bike in the garage. Sorry, whoops."
Yeah, do you not remember that time that you said?
Yeah, remember you said you could probably keep the old one. That was it. That was enough. Thanks very much. Thank you.
You said.
Yeah. Right, Dale's got a second question for us. He says, also, I'm wanted to go travelling to the Picos, but the thought of riding on the opposite side scares the shit out of me. Any tips for a rider on his first time riding on the wrong side? You
do you not think it's easier on a bike than it is in a car? The car, I think, is I think on a bike it's much easier.
Yeah,
sometimes I've seen me driving the wrong side of the road here. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's because obviously the bike's narrower. I think it's just much easier, and I think you've always got that thing in the back of your mind. If I do pull out and I'm on the wrong side of the road, and someone comes, it's easy for just to go and move across. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's. Whereas in the car, it's like and 9 times out of 10, it's a higher car.
Aye.
And that sits in the back of your mind going, oh, I don't want to bang it because then I'll lose X amount of thousands or whatever. So, yeah, just take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time and focus.
I was going to say the level of focus you need to ride a bike compared to a car as well will actually just strengthen the fact that you're in a different place on the other side of the road. And I think
I did see somebody once put a sticker up that said, was it keep right? Keep right. Do you know what I mean?
I've seen people doing that, Just on the handlebars and the screen and stuff.
Just so that when they look down and have that wee glance, it's always the reminder of, right, remember, you're on the opposite side of the road. But
I would say, like, when you get to roundabouts, look left, right, left. Like, we're always taught right, left, right, aren't we?
Yes.
But when you're abroad, left, right, left, because when you come to a roundabout, everything's coming from your left. But if you're going to Spain, roundabouts, in fact, most of Europe, they haven't got a clue what they're doing on roundabouts anyway. So it's just, just if there's a gap, get on and then treat everybody. What you'll find when you get to Spain, when you get on a roundabout, there's no lane discipline, or it's certainly not the same as the UK. So if you're on a roundabout and you're going anti-clockwise round, right, and say you're in the inside lane, somebody will be on the outside lane. Well, don't think that means they're taking like the first or second exit or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, they will go on the outside lane and they'll go all the way around the roundabout. So just keep all of that in your mind and just be doubly careful.
If there's one thing the pandemic's taught us, it's social distancing. Make that your bike. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. That's the one thing about riding abroad is the going round roundabouts does feel a little bit weird the first couple of times you do it, but then after that it just you just go, it's fine. Poof, and there you go.
It's amazing how quickly your head just clicks into it. You know?
I actually feel more. I feel more like at home on the wrong side of the road, I've got to say. And I hate to say it. I don't know
if that says more about you than anything else.
I'm fiercely, I'm fiercely proud of being British and the fact that we drive on the left. Yes, we're different.
The proper side.
But driving on the right just feels better, I think. I don't want us to do that, but I do feel
Dale,
better.
Just just take your time, pal, and you'll find it really comes naturally. It's not. I think you overthink it sometimes. It's just it does. Just take your time and just stay focused. You'll be fine. You'll be right as anybody.
You do. You slip into it really, really quickly.
Definitely. You're not in a race, man. So just enjoy it.
I was going to crack a joke there, but I've had my one gag at Ian binning bikes. So
thanks. Cheers.
We'll move on.
We'll come back to that.
We'll just slip into it. You just slip into it.
You literally.
The tarmac. Sorry.
That's all right.
Good to have mates, isn't it, Ian?
I know, absolutely. You know,
I felt guilty. He
phoned
me, he said he'd been the bike, and I
sounds
felt
like you felt really guilty.
Well, no, he was coming to see me, so I felt really bad because I was like, "Oh my god, if he hadn't been coming to see me, he wouldn't have binned it." No. But but a week later, that kind of wore off, and it was like, "Hey, binned it, clown."
A week. I was going to say a week. That's
when you're real special. It was a week. Any less than that, it'd have been like a couple of days. So,
that's
right. Next one.
There we go.
Debbie Clegg. Hello. I don't know anything about you guys yet. What's the inner cave bit about? If it has a history, it'd be interesting to know where you got the idea from. Cheers, and I look forward to the Teapot Brew chats. Have fun. Cheers, Debbie. Well, yeah, you covered it earlier, didn't you?
There's the cave. This is the cave.
Yep.
Tell us all about it.
When we bought this, I didn't. You mean my wife's one of those people that goes, "I want to," and the key part is the I want. So, and if you're listening, darling, I love you to bits, but you know I'm true. You know I'm right. She wanted to move to a bungalow, which where we live, they're like rocking horse shit. They're really, really, really difficult to find, and when you do find them, you've got to compete like hell to get them. So we eventually did get one after years of looking. And I said, well, we'll only move on the proviso that I can get a pool table. And she went, deal. And I went, shit, I should ask for something bigger. And for years, the pool table, it's a pool table, but at the top, you can put tops on it. It's a dining table, and it lay in our dining room. And I never really got to play it. And the wife kind of said, that pool table's getting on my nerves. And I went, well, you agreed to it. Unless, the only thing I think is we build like a big cave at the back, and I'll just use it as a man cave, and I'll put like a TV in it for watching football, and we'll put a fridge in it with beer. And she went, that's not a bad idea. Yes, let's go for that. So,
wow.
Hence the man cave was born.
In my reckoning, that's not a bad idea. Is yes, it is happening.
That's a full on. Go ahead and do it.
I nearly fell over. So that was the kind of birth of the man cave, and then again we kind of covered it earlier. It was just a case of what we're going to talk about. Well, let's just be a couple of average bikers. Let's just talk nonsense in a cave, in the man cave, and that was it.
And it works because it's ABC. So it's like it was like it was meant to happen, wasn't it?
Absolutely. You're top of the list.
I'm no great at spelling, and I'm no brilliant at spelling. If anyone's listening to our podcast, you will know I'm not good at spelling because I'll type up the notes so that we kind of got the bullet points to talk about. And the amount of times we've been talking through something, and Ian, to his credit, he's very quick, and he'll just read through literally what I've just typed. Right. So one time it was Diddy Al Go Aggies rather than digital gauges. It was Diddy Al Go Aggies.
Diddy Al Go Aggies. Yeah. So
I was like, that's a Diddy Al. He's like, well, that's how you typed it. I was like, okay, that's fair enough.
Sometimes I fall victim to something similar to that when I'm reading people's questions out. Because some people just don't use any grammar, they don't use any punctuation in there at all. So you're trying to read what they've wrote, and you're like, what does that say?
Just to set my own pause. Just to set my own comments, thanks.
I reckon my experience as a karaoke presenter and reading people's slips for songs has given me that ability to reinterpret things quickly. So when somebody sends you a thing and says, I like to sing Caught in a Trap, you've got to know that actually they mean Suspicious Minds, right? So because people don't know the names of songs. So they just so there's all
took
these
me a while, but I got it.
But and people, so you just take that and you read it and you go, right, I know what you actually want. If somebody says I want to sing Country Roads, you know what they want to sing is Take Me Home Country Roads, and not the James Taylor Country Roads, because because people don't, and so Darren's a bit like that when he writes his news and things,
Right.
To be honest,
I did the Algoage, was the end.
Where'd you do the karaoke then, Ian?
There's a wee pub in Glasgow that I've done for a while, but always pandemic and everything's kind of closed it all down. So, literally, I've not done it for about 2 years, apart from the odd night now, because because they're just not getting the punters in now. Glasgow's a ghost town on a Saturday, Friday and Saturday now.
Glasgow
was just, it was a going out city, wasn't it? It was a very social city.
It's properly suffered with COVID.
That has definitely.
Which is tragic.
What's the pub then that you used to do the karaoke in?
It's a wee tiny pub called the Intermezzo. Give a shout out to the guys at Intermezzo if anybody's listening. Absolutely
the Intermezzo.
The Intermezzo.
Intermezzo, okay.
Yeah, so there was a film years and years ago with oh gosh, I can't remember who the Ingrid Bergman was in it, and it was called something, but then it was called something, and it was called At the Intermezzo, so it's been named after that. I mean, it's like this pub you walk in, it's like the pub that times forgot, but it's brilliant because of it. But it's got black and white pictures from this film, and it's an obscure B movie that I hadn't heard of it. Nobody knows anything about it, but it's just this wonderful wee piece of Glasgow life that when you go in, everyone I know was in it just loves being in it because it's real. And everybody in it's just real, but they just welcome you with open arms, and you just have an absolute hoot of a time. And if I go in and I take the bike in, if I'm driving in and riding in at night, I take the bike in, there's a 20-minute time when the pub shuts that everybody wants to sit on the bike and get the pictures taken. And you're like, yeah, crack on, of course you can, it's not a problem,
That must have been open when I was in Glasgow then. I left Glasgow 2000.
Yes, I would. If you'd walked past that pub on a Friday night, it would have been me singing.
I'm trying. Whereabouts is it then?
So where there's the big Cineworld cinema, used to be Virgin, where the Pavilion Theatre is, and right across from it there. This is just a wee chat between us. All the listeners will be going, I don't know anything about Glasgow.
The Glasgow ones,
on Renfrew Street, and there was a French restaurant hotel in one corner called Le Bon Auberge, and then there was a pub at the other side called the Athol Arms, and right across from the cinema.
I remember the Athol. Yeah.
So there's a tiny wee pub in the middle of that row of shops called the Intermezzo. And
jeez, I don't ever remember seeing it.
It's one of the. It's a bit like one of these kind of magical shops that if you don't know it's there, you just walk past it. So if anybody ever reads Terry Pratchett, there's a beautiful description of this magic shop that only appears when it wants customers to come in, and the Intermezzo's a bit like that.
It's like that.
Just, if it wants people to come in, all of a sudden it seems to glow or something. I don't know. And then at other times, if the staff want to go home early, all of a sudden you're like, I didn't even know there was a pub there. But a great wee place, and they still do karaoke on a Saturday night with two good friends, Colin and Jill. So if you're in Glasgow, pop in, tell them we said hi, and sing yourself a song. And it is folks. And it's also one of the cheapest pints in Glasgow.
Oh, happy days! What's the pint running there then?
It's Tennent's, so it's Tennent's lager, and it's about $2.80.
They're giving it away.
They're giving it away. Well, basically, as I call it, cooking lager. Right? A pint of cooking lager, and I mean, do not expect craft beers and all that. Computer says no. It is heavy lager. Cider. That's it. Go in.
A proper old school Glasgow pub.
I remember that coming to Glasgow, and you'd go and ask for a beer, and I'd be like, "What do you want?" And you didn't ask for it by name. You went heavy lager or cider if you were posh, I suppose. But it was heavy or lager. That was it.
or the only one you asked for by name, Guinness, and they do have a really good pint of Guinness in there, I have to say.
Yeah. When I was in Glasgow, sort of 94 to 2000, it was all stuff like Gillespie's was becoming quite big in Glasgow, and I remember Caffrey's Irish.
That's right.
Yeah.
Gave me a banging sore head.
Loved a pint of Caffrey's.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it gave me a cracking sore head, especially after 20 pints of it. Sheesh.
Aye.
In fairness, anything after 20 pints will give you a bit of sore head.
Unless you're Sean. Unless you're Sean Tinsley.
Unless you're Sean for Tinsel Tour, in which case, you've got hollow legs.
I know. 20 pints is just a little aperitif before you start the main course.
He'd be cheaper drinking petrol and running his bike on beer.
Not this day.
No anymore.
Right, next one. Mark Fulchar. Help me, ducks. So a couple of things to ponder over, if you wouldn't mind. Number one, up in the northeast over the last few days, the A68 is the A68, which is a license losing road. I experienced having a fruity sausage, pork and apple roby. What's that? Roby? Having a fruity sausage. Oh, okay, sorry. I experienced having a fruity sausage, a pork and pork and apple to be precise, served as part of the full English for breakfast. At first, I assumed this was blasphemy. However, after consuming said sausage, it actually worked for breakfast. So I wonder, what are your stances on breakfast sausages? Fruity or not?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a great question, but bearing in mind, we are from Glasgow, and if the sausage isn't square, it isn't happening. Do you know what I mean?
I don't get the fascination with lawn sausage. I just don't get it.
But lawn sausage is different. So you can get lawn sausage that's square, but you can also get steak sausage that's square.
So you want
steak sausage is steak lawn.
Steak lawn from a reputable butcher.
Yes, that's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, that's different.
Steak lawn. So steak, just
so it's beef minced up. It's beef minced up rather than your kind of pork and polystyrene. So it's so you've got you've got to get it from a really good butcher. But if we're talking links or is it Savolois? Is that a posh word for them?
I think links, I think that's a whole different sausage. You know,
I wouldn't call that a sausage. Yeah, Savolois.
No, I don't know. I don't know because I'm a square sausage man really, but I do love the cheapest link sausage you can get in a breakfast. It has to like a Richmond's or something like that, you know. The real, you know.
Richmond's, if you're listening.
He actually says, for your information, if anyone mentions Richmond sausages, this relationship is over.
You should have told me that the cheaper the sausage, the better for me, honestly.
Really?
Oh yeah, totally.
See, I'm in the other camp. I'm not, but as long as it's not overbearing. Right, so we had the full English Sunday morning before we headed off on the adventure weekend, and the link sausage on there they definitely had kind of herbs and stuff through them, and on first bite you go, that's not normal, and then you think is there something wrong with that, and then you have a wee look and oh no, it's herbs, and then as you went further on, it was like, I could go another couple of those. They were lovely. So as long as it's not overbearing, I'm not particularly bothered. You know what I mean? I don't. As long as it's not. You know what I mean? As long as it's just not all. You know what I mean? As long as there's some meat in there, then it's fine. You know what I mean? But if it gets to the point where it's like a 80-20 split on fruit, or I
like fruity sausage for pie and mash. Pie and mash, we use these apple and pork sausages with pie and mash, and they're lovely. It's beautiful.
The fruity sausages have their place, absolutely. So, talking about sausage, that's what I had for my dinner tonight, right? I had lovely, rich Cumberland sausages, right? Or as I call them in Scotland, Cumbernauld sausages. Only because, for those who don't know, there's a place called Cumbernauld.
It's an in-joke if you're from that.
It's an in-joke if you're American.
It's one vowel short.
Yeah, a wee Cumbernauld sausage. So, a Cumberland sausage.
What's it called?
Cumberland, exactly.
That's an old one.
That's a big one. Another in joke there, and I made it with a lovely kind of onion marmalade gravy and everything, and lots of nice veggies and stuff like that.
Posh, you are, aren't you? You're posh.
I just like.
Wait a minute, they were Richmond's. Do you know what I mean?
It's cheap sausages, eyeballs and arseholes.
They were high quality Cumbernauld sausages, right? And I think for your dinner and for something where you want all that lots of lovely flavours, that's the place to have a fruity sausage. But when it's your breakfast, if you want fruit, put brown sauce on it, because there's apple and brown sauce. That'll do me.
Mm-hmm. Or have fruit pudding on the side.
Or fruit pudding, absolutely. Or
fruit pudding and black pudding.
Dumpling.
Oh, dumpling.
Slice of dumpling.
Did you ever have you ever had mealy pudding?
Yes.
The North East. Yes, I think they call it Scurley. Is it Scurley?
Yeah,
is
Scurley.
Yeah, it's what we used to call it up in the North East. I loved it. I mean, it's literally heart attack. It's like fat. It's some sort of grain. Is it barley or something?
It's barley and it's a kind of barley and lard, essentially.
Lard. Yeah. I mean, you can feel your entire body season up, but it's awesome. It's lovely. Yeah, it comes out in these sausages type things, and you burst them open and scoop all the scurly out, and it's just like a really dry. It's dry but slightly moist. It's got like a moist consistency to it, but it's really dry when you eat it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's lovely.
It's an enigma.
It's nice.
It's an enigma wrapped up in a animal skin. Do you know what I mean?
So I think what we've concluded here is yes, the fruity sausages, but no in a breakfast.
Do you know what? I don't eat breakfast. If I've got something, I know you'd never believe it by the size of me, but if I've got something to do or like somewhere to go, I can't eat. I cannot have breakfast in the morning because my guts are terrible. My stomach is horrendous. Like when I go away on tour, I can't have brekkie. I'll just have a coffee. And like I can't eat till like lunchtime. Yeah. Otherwise, anyone that's been on tour with me knows what happens.
It's a couple of,
we'll leave that one there.
Horsepower. It's fine. So, but, I know how you feel. I'll take a notion for breakfast. You know what I mean? Sometimes, but as you say, if I've got things to do, I'd rather just get on with the day and do them. Get coffee and go on with it, and then maybe about 11 o'clock I'll grab something. But
I've got breakfast. I've got to have. I can do without lunch, but breakfast's got to be done. That's the you know what I mean. When
I'm at home, I'll have brekkie and I'll not bother with lunch. But I tend to have breakfast quite late. Really, by the time I'm up, done a row, walked the dog, sorted done dishes and stuff downstairs. It's late anyway, so I have a brunch.
Once the man chores are done, then I'll have my breakfast.
This is it.
Right. There's a good concept here. Are fruity sausages acceptable as a brunch? Because breakfast and brunch are two different things.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I would say you could go with a fruity sausage for a brunch. So if your breakfast was a bit later on in the morning, then absolutely spot on. Well done, well played. Definitely.
What about where'd you stand with black pudding? You have black pudding for breakfast?
Yes. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. What about black pudding for tea then?
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Anytime at all, black pudding.
Anytime at all.
Well, depends on it. I'm not going to add it to a spag ball. Do you know what I mean? But
I would. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Have you ever had a black pudding toasty? That's amazing, by the way.
Black pudding toasty, no?
Aye. Oh, you've got to do it. Honestly.
Well, that's getting tried this weekend.
Why do Scottish people have the worst heart disease issues in the world?
I honestly can't think.
I think it's lack of vitamin D because of the lack of sunshine. It's definitely got nothing to
That's all it is. It's got
nothing to do with cheap tenants lager and bad diets.
Deep fried anything.
If you were around Glasgow in the kind of 90s and early 2000s, I can't remember exactly when it closed down, but in the West End there was a place called Murphy's Pakora Bar. I don't know if you remember that. Aye.
I remember the name. I never went.
Yeah. I used to live in that place, right?
Did you?
And they had black pudding pakora. So so even at 2 a.m, black pudding is an essential food in my opinion.
Black pudding pakora is good. Yeah. I'll give you that. That black pudding pakora is nice.
Sounds
Same
good.
With the haggis pakora is dynamite as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So
we used to, on the doors, we all used to, by the time we'd finished, it would be between 4 and 5 in the mornings most times. And there was only one kebab shop in Glasgow that was open at that sort of time. And it was just south of Central Station. I can't remember the name of the road. It was near the Arches.
It was on Oswald Street.
Oswald Street, yeah, that's the one. You go in there and you get. I was introduced to a chicken parmesan in there.
Yep.
Oh my God. If you don't know what chicken parmesan, folks, is, you get a big pizza box and they take out, you imagine a chicken breast, which is hammered with a mallet flat. And then they cover it in cheese. I think it must be Parmesan cheese, I'm assuming, hence the name, and breadcrumbs, and it's deep fried. And then you get that with chips and some salad. Chicken Parmesan, amazing. Yeah, but they also did that massive 3 foot long,
the Sarbeni.
Sarbeni, that's the one. Oh my God!
That was just because I used to work in the hotels doing wine waiting, and so you'd finish at 2, 3, or 4 in the morning once you set up for the next function, and the only place the only place you go it was the place to do the Sarbenis.
It was an institution, wasn't it?
It was absolutely. A Sarbeni was just the best thing. Ever. I think it's still there. I think it's actually. Oh yeah.
And it was that time of the morning, it was just full of working people, wasn't it? It was just full of people that had finished work and they wanted food.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Good times. Right, sorry, Fulch has a second part to his questions. He said, I had a proud dad moment this week, but it makes me wonder, how do I cope if the little lad grows up and isn't into bikes? It's a genuine concern. All this hybrid electric nonsense really does send a shiver down my spine that potential new riders won't have the excitement factor showcased to them. In a few years, when all we hear is a whistle rather than a big grunty cross-plane engine giving it some revs in the 12,000 region and making the hair stand up on your neck. How are manufacturers going to sell in what I consider an uneventful, disengaging machine? Now, do you think Mark is for or against electric?
That's a tough one, actually. Yeah,
I think Mark's on the fence. I think Mark could be persuaded.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mark.
And I tell you what, Mark's a mate of mine, and there's not a chance his lad is going to be not into bikes. He just hasn't got a chance.
If it's any consolation, right? And Ian, you can go in a minute because you're lucky. But I don't have boys. I've got 2 girls. Mm-hmm. My youngest loves being on the back of the bike. I don't even get the sentence out my mouth. I think I'll go to run on the bike, and she's already got the leather jacket on and the helmet in hand, so she's ready to go. And she's coming up on 15, so we'll see when she gets to 16 if she fancies a moped. Whereas my eldest daughter, who's turning 18 in May, her exact words were, "Those are death traps." And I will never be on the back of that thing because it's a death trap. And when you die, I will say I told you so. You're like, okay.
Fine.
Thanks, Frankie Boyle.
That's like the old one, isn't it? You know, if you come off that bike and break your legs, don't come running to me. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And then I suppose it depends what age you when his wee boy is, because you never know. At some point, he's going to get to an age, and puberty and all that kind of stuff's going to kick in. And then he's going to suddenly realise chicks like bikes. Maybe I'll get a bike. Maybe I'll get a bike. That's the road in. Yep.
But what Mark's saying though is obviously by that time the chances are we'll have migrated away from internal combustion and will be potentially electric or whatever the next stage is going to be.
Yeah, but again, you mean I'll throw it out there. There's two parts to this for me, right? Part one is, to be honest, I'm not that bothered because at the rate petrol's fucking going, it's going to be a damn sight cheaper to drive electric anyway.
It's even convenient, that, isn't it?
Even if they are still 25 grand to buy one. But on the other side of things, you look at Triumph's TE1, right? They're in the middle of developing. I think it started going into testing. I think it's in phase 4 and they're testing it. And
I think there may be a few delays with that.
Oh, really? But but it does look very reminiscent of a street trip.
Looks amazing. Looks amazing.
And I get that it'll not have the same whine that like a triple engine has. However, if they can manufacture something that sounds, gives you some sort of sound, I don't think there's any kind of real way of getting away from it. They're kind of hell bent on moving us away from them. I think it's then to the manufacturers, make it engaging, make it sound the way that we want it to sound. Don't make it just a kind of an afterthought. Because
have you ridden one?
I've ridden the Livewire.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've not ridden an electric bike, to be fair. So
because every time you take a demo out with Harley, you drop it. Sorry, right? That's the last one. Honestly, I promise.
You're never going to live that down, Ian.
And that's not true. When I took the Sportster out as a demo, I didn't drop it. I just dropped my own Sportster.
You just dropped your own. I'll be honest. The only thing I didn't like about the Livewire was the riding position. It is a bit more aggressive than I would like at my middle age. It's
stretched, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. At my age, that's not the ideal riding position for hours on the bike. Not that you would get hours on it anyway because you need to stop and charge it, but it still gets a little bit achy. But if they were to put a little riser on it and bring that bar back ever so slightly so you're a little bit more upright and just beef it up a wee bit, I think it's a great bike to ride. I really do enjoy it. It definitely gives you the grin factor. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't. It was definitely it was a great handling bike as far as I was concerned, and I was not hanging about on it because, well, it's not mine, and you don't really have much option with that thing other than to go, this is brilliant, look, instant power, I can do 100 miles an hour every time. Do
you not think though that as more electric vehicles come onto the road and less internal combustion vehicles are on the road, they're going to have to make them louder? They're actually going to, for a safety perspective, they're going to have to make them louder, and
they've had to do it with cars. The cars have already had to do that. I think below a certain, sorry to interrupt, apologies, Ian.
No, that's fine. No.
Below something like I don't know what the speed is, but I think it's something like 20 or 15 or 10 miles an hour. Below a certain speed, they have to make some sort of audible noise other than just the whine of the engine tires, or the tires because of that, because they had pedestrians just stepping out. And I used to see it commuting when I had an electric bike on test in and out of London. Just people step out in front of you all the time.
No. Does that not then give manufacturers a really good opportunity?
Definitely.
To actually make your bike sound many different ways?
How do you make, like, do you have a speaker on the bike to produce that sound? And if you do that, then how do you power the speaker? Because you're going to be draining the already precious battery. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I think it's probably something that I think will have to happen in the sense of safety point of view. Yeah. So if anything, it might even help develop a bit more of the technology. Or there's a separate battery for your speakers. Speakers don't take a huge amount of power.
I suppose not.
As comparison, but it, you know what? So when my friend had it was the Cupra. At the time, there was a button you could press in the Cupra to make it sound like a racing car. Now that was when you were inside the car, but you pressed it and it responded to the accelerator and it sounded amazing within the car. So it's there anyway, isn't it? So why not?
It's just about getting it to go to the outside rather than anything else.
And then think of somewhere like Harley. They could turn and say, "Well, there's your bike. We can make it sound like a fat bob. We can make it sound." Like a sports that we can make it sound like Mr. T. Do you mean whatever
I was just going to say that it's then going to turn into all these guys that program their Tesla horns. Do you know what I mean? So that when they press the horn, it goes emotional damage as it's driving down the street. Do you know what I mean? And is that going to be the next thing? Is you can take the put sound or whatever and have it play something completely different. You know what I mean? It could play the Chips soundtrack as you're tearing down the street. So
go on then. What is the Chips soundtrack? Go.
I have no idea.
Come on, you must remember it.
No. That's it. There you go. There's a teaser for you. There's the promo for this fucking podcast done.
That's it.
See Scottish guys talk about chips
and sausages. When I did the review of the Livewire, I actually said that because the Livewire it's constructed differently to the other electric bikes, in that essentially the Livewire is just it's the battery, and then you've got a front and a back that just bolt on, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just opening itself for customization. I remember I said in my review, I was like, Harleys are, the thing with Harleys is making it your own, isn't it? It's customization of Harleys, and you're part of the Harley gang, but everybody can make it their own. And I was like, well, this Livewire is just the next step in that. And there'll be, as you just said there, there'll be a whole customization industry that will grow around customizing electric vehicles, particularly things like the Livewire, because of the way it's manufactured, for sure.
But then you look at Damon. You look at what Damon are doing at the minute.
Yeah.
Those things are absolutely stunning. And we talked
about black and yellow.
And
exactly.
And it comes in wasp paint job. The only thing I think about them is they need to do something with the naming convention. You know what I mean? Because they do sound a bit like data plans. You know what I mean? You've got the unlimited, and then you've got the unlimited 20, and then and I get it means the battery size. However, it doesn't take anything away from the fact that those things are stunning, and they look like they're set up to actually handle. Do you know what I mean? They look like they're set up to have fun on, and if you haven't had a go of anything in the kind of bigger power, whether that be a Zero or an Energy car or whatever, go out and have a go at one. For all it's missing that noise, there is still something
definitely
that I like about the fact that there is no real noise. You don't really, you know what I mean? But it's still, you mean, you cannot take away from the grin factor. The sheer constant linear power of these things is just it's breathtaking sometimes.
And I find you notice other noises now that the engine's not there. You notice the tires on the tarmac. You notice the drive, whether it's belt, chain, or however the the battery, the engine is turning the wheels. You hear all that, and then when you're slow speed and going through country lanes, you hear animals. Like, you sneak up on animals, come around corners, and there's bloody animals in the road. It's weird stuff.
And just think, your requirement for earplugs and protecting your ears takes serious inroads. You know what I mean? You can actually go out without taking them and thinking, well, I'm going to be deaf in 3 months.
It's the wind. It's actually the wind that causes the damage to your ears. It's not the noise from the engine. It's the
howling wind.
The wind passing through your lid past your ears. That is what causes the hearing damage. So you're still going to get that with. Oh, hang on, one of my pods has just gone. You're still going to get that with.
That's because you were poking about there.
I know. I pushed it out this year. Yeah, you're still going to get that with electric for sure. But no, I think Mark, I've said this to you before, Mark. You've got to take one for a spin, and I know you're saying over your dead body, but you have to. You've got to take one out, mate, and just see what you think. For sure.
Aye. If you don't come back with this. Then I'll concede and say, yeah, you're right, and I'll join the boycott the electrics. But I don't think you will. I think you're running like Cheshire Cat.
In Mark's defence, one of the best things is when you turn that. You've maybe not been on the bike for a few weeks or something like that, or it's just that you got it out the shed after winter or whatever, and you turn it on and you just get that smell of petrol, and you go,
aye,
oh.
A lot of people think electric is going to be the death of petrol. It's not. You're still going to have your petrol bike. You've still got steam engines out there. So it's going to be no different to, you've still got classic cars. There's going to be no different. I think it's going to be harder and more expensive to get the fuel, but you'll still be able to get it.
I think probably what it'll be is, you're right, it might make that level of motorcycling far more niche, because you need a level of mechanical knowledge and things like that now that you don't need just now, because I'm not a particularly mechanically minded person, so if something goes wrong, I put it in the garage and somebody fixes it for me. Yeah.
That's a good point. If you think about it, you will still have mechanics because you will still have them out there. However, will your new age mechanics not really be mechanics? Will they be electricians?
But are they not that already? With a lot of bikes,
they are kind of plugging laptops in.
They've already been called technicians, aren't they? Because they're plugging laptops in and running diagnostics. And
I said, years ago I worked for the AA. At one point, I was out managing the patrols that were out on the road. At one point, and I was interviewing for new patrols, and the amount of guys that would come from, like a dealership garage, and you would give them bits of engine and say, "You found this by the side of the road, fix it," and they're like, I don't know how to do that.
Wow.
I know how to do a service. I know how to plug something in a computer, and replace a part. But I don't know how to repair something to get somebody back on the road, or get them from to get them to a garage. And I thought, wow, that is a skill that is just getting degraded as things become more. And as you say, become an electrician. I mean, you plug your bike in, the computer tells you what's wrong with it, or what it's been telling you is wrong with it. You replace the bit and you move on. They won't have the joy of tinkering.
Good word.
Thank you.
Tinkering.
And so maybe there'll just be this subculture of tinkerers that we have. And we'll become
the living caves.
The living caves,
old-fashioned caves, no man caves like.
Yeah, so in 10 years' time, this will be the average tinkerers in a cave.
Eating fruity sausage.
Eating fruity sausage, exactly. There's a lot, and I've done more bits and bobs to bikes and things, especially now my son, who is into bikes now, which is great. And actually, to be fair, I never thought for a second my son would be into bikes. When
you're rubbing it in, Mark's listening to this crying.
Sorry, Mark. But he's now got himself his CBT and he's got a mutt. But for anyone that knows about mutt motorcycles, they require a lot of love, a lot of TLC to keep them going, because.
Really?
Oh yeah, and it's because they shake a lot, so things come loose. So just every few weeks you've just got to go around and tighten everything.
Oh, okay.
They're really shaky. I mean, I took it out the other day because my son's down in London still at the moment. He's back up on Sunday actually to start filming for a year. But and I took his mutt out just to get it a bit of a run, charge it up, take it out, and the foot peg was hanging off because it just come loose through the vibrations. And then he was out with me on last Sunday, and I'm riding behind him, and I just had to say to him in the intercom, I said, John, just to let you know, your indicators have fallen off. You know,
he's riding behind them like this. Whoa, whoa!
They were just hanging off, and I thought, oh, they've snapped because there was a wee issue with indicators snapping in a lot of people's and a lot of the forums. Everybody was trying to replace something, but then when I got close to him, I went, no, they haven't. It's just the bolts come loose. You know, but the worrying thing is the bolt that holds on the indicators also holds on the saddle. So at that point, I'm like, John, I think maybe we should just stop and maybe just get this sorted. So, right.
Get some Loctite.
So you've seen John's wee man. It's a gorgeous looking wee bike. It's like really old school. Looks like something that Steve McQueen would jump over a fence on. Do you know what I mean? It's nice. A cracking looking retro wee bike, but it needs a lot of TLC just to keep them going because they are not. They're not high quality put together bikes, you know. And then the price reflects that. To be fair,
do you know I've tried to contact, Mutt to see if they had like press bikes or anything that I could take out.
Yeah.
Because I thought nobody's doing reviews of these. I didn't see many reviews kicking about. So I contacted them, and normally it's just a case of, yeah, absolutely, you know, these are the bikes we've got. What would you like? They wanted me to write a little thesis explaining and detailing why I wanted their bikes and what I was going to do and analytics. I can't be bothered.
Nah, you're all right.
Can't be bothered, to be honest. But you mentioned John there.
Yes.
Come on, let's do it. Who is John?
John. So John is my son, who's learned to ride his motorcycle. Hey. But for those who watch a wee bit of television and go to the movies, my son's John is an actor. So his name is John Bell, and he's currently in Outlander, the TV series Outlander. So if you're listening and you watch Outlander, then John plays a character called Young Ian, which is a relatively major character within the storyline, certainly from season 3.
Now, you boys, this all came up when I did your podcast about Outlander, and I thought I'm going to go and watch this because I've heard so much about it.
Yeah.
I'm Scottish. You made me spend money. I had to go and buy the first series, but I sat and watched it all. It's brilliant.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think what's nice about it is that people think it's about time travel. But it's not. It does have time travel in it, and I'm not sponsored by Stars or Outlander or anything here. Just so I can say it.
Just his son.
It's a really clever device to take some modern concepts and bring them into a historical drama, and how it would feel to have that kind of level of knowledge back in time a bit. But it's a historical drama set around about the mid 1700s in Scotland, and eventually moves to other parts of the world. But I'll not say anything about spoilers and things. But so my son John's been in it since season 3 as a pretty main character. And this season 6, that she's just started in Stars, he's got some really cool stuff he's doing. His characters have evolved and developed. And for those that follow it, you'll get to find out a lot more about his character. So that if you're listening across the globe, you get very excited about it. But John's been doing it since he was like 7 or 8. So he won a competition years ago with Blue Peter for a part in Doctor Who. So and he won it out of 8,500 kids, and that was at the time. I don't know if this helped him or not, but that was at the time when it seemed like Blue Peter was giving competition prizes to somebody's uncle or somebody's wee kid. Or somebody just phoned in for the room next door to give the name of the cat or something like that. There was all that controversy around their competitions. So my wife and I never thought for a second, his mum didn't think that he would be, would have a chance of winning it, but he loved Doctor Who at the time, so we filmed it and we did all that. And sure enough, he won it, got his part, got his agent.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Then ended up in some pretty big productions.
Awesome.
Tracy Beaker, if you were kids, would love it. And then we were in New Zealand for 7 months filming The Hobbit. He was in the Hobbit films, which was just super cool. So what's good for John is that even if he doesn't act for a wee while, he's got comic cons he can go to. He's in some of the most iconic, kind of nerd films, geek films that you want. So and
to top it all, he's got into biking now as well.
And to top it all, he's got into biking, and actually that's the reason I love my Triumph, because John bought me that Triumph.
Nice.
So that's why I don't want rid of. That's the sentimental side of things for my Triumph, because my son let me get back on the bikes again after I didn't have a bike for a few years, so he allowed that to happen for me. So John, Thank you so much if you're listening to me, man. I love you. There you go.
Good on you, John.
Good man.
Right, let's get back on track with some questions then. Charlie Callard. How you doing, Charlie? Evening each. Listened to the podcast the other day when the boss was a guest. Absolutely quality. We'll definitely be listening to you guys again. Well, I think he means when I was on yours. Cheers, Charlie. Thank you.
Cheers, Charlie.
So my question, what's one thing you hate and one thing you love about riding a bike? And are you like me and that you find it therapeutic?
Absolutely. Therapeutic is probably a great way of describing it. You know, it's a time to just be in your own head and just enjoy that moment for yourself. And to me, one of the things, and I've said this to anyone who's either comes on the back of the bike with me or is on a bike, I say, I love the fact that you can smell your journey. You know, you can actually, you know, in a car.
Just depends how bad your riding is.
Absolutely. But
this time of the year,
and if you've had sausage.
I'm not necessarily saying that I love all the smells you get, but it's just another connection you've got with with your environment around you that you don't get in a car. And so probably for me, that's one of the big things I love about being on a bike is having that extra level of connection with your environment that you don't get. You might get it to a certain extent in a convertible car or something, but you know, you just don't have that sense of connection with the environment. So that's probably the big thing for me. And probably the one I would say I dislike the most about being on the bike is not being able to do it because the weather's rubbish. That's it. So it's very weather dependent.
But you're in Scotland.
I know.
Exactly.
What's your class is rubbish? Like driving snow?
Driving snow, yeah, pretty much, yeah. Absolutely.
See me going to work in that in the bike.
Yeah, I know.
That's true. So I think it's just that it's like it's not as pleasurable in unpleasant weather, I suppose. But
no, I get you. Yeah.
You know, but it's so that's not really that's because I can't be on the bike. Is why I dislike it. It's you're kind of limited at times because of the weather. Yeah, that's probably the worst thing, you know, about it.
I think.
What about you, Dan?
I think the mental health thing is probably a big topic at the minute, and I do think being on a bike just allows you to kind of reset your brain and clear your mind. And I don't know if it's because you're just in the environment or because you're so focused on what you're doing or more so what everyone else is doing or not doing to the point. And I think, there's charity that there's a motorbike charity at the minute are putting first aiders, like mental health first aiders, specifically for the biking community. And I do think that for me, it's the one thing about COVID, working from home, that I do miss that 20-25 minute commute to work and the commute home, because that allows me to reset my brain to go into work mode. And then when you're leaving, it allows you to ditch all the crap that's happened at work, so that when you're home, that's you in home mode and you can 100%. Concentrate on other stuff. So I definitely think it's so therapeutic. I think I'd have been locked up in a padded room had it not been for my bike before now. And there's not one thing I hate about being out on the road. There's a bit of million.
Grab one of your podcasts a couple of podcasts ago. That's just a rant.
Christmas show. It was us literally drinking and absolutely slating everybody that ever existed on the road.
You need that though, don't you? You need that.
Yeah, that was the kind of right. Fuck it, we're going carte blanche here. Let's just let rip.
Yep.
My big pet peeve. Drivers on mobile phones. And I know that sounds cliched, but I hate them. I hate them in a car. I hate them, especially on a motorbike. And they just don't. They have no awareness of what's wrong about them.
No,
none at all.
It's this thing at the moment on the socials, on social media. These fucking idiots in their cars, and they're either doing lives or they're filming and chatting to the camera whilst they're driving on the phone. You're like, what are you doing?
There was a woman in front of us the night. I had the kids in the car and we were actually going somewhere. And the woman in front of us missed a set of lights because she was like this. And she had huge nails. Now, I'm, again, not being sexist, right? If it's a guy with long nails, crack on. But the same thing would have still drove me nuts. Yeah. Couldn't quite get trying to pinch it and move it, and I'm like, just fucking leave it alone and move on.
Concentrate and go.
Leave it alone. No. Twitch. Eventually I just horned. Meh. Like, get out of the road. Although I did leave Ian's earlier on today, and a woman was standing at the side of the road with a dog on her mobile phone, right?
Right.
Looked and went, and could see me coming. It's a bright orange adventure bike, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
And still decided, I'm just going to walk out onto the road with a dog, and I had to put the brakes on, horn on and everything. And my wife was behind me. She's in the comms going, what a stupid bitch. What the? And it's fine, dear. We've stopped. It's fine. But
people do, though, don't they? They just switch off the brain. You see it all. I used to see it commuting in and out of London. People look, but they don't see. You know, they always say that about cars. And I had it in a car. She was a nurse, perversely enough. I remember she looked, and then she looked to her left, and I looked at the back of her head as she pulled out, and it's just like, you know, I could see her. Surely she saw me. She looked at me, but people just don't see her, do they?
That was my bit of advice to John when he first got on about it. I said, if that person in the car hasn't made eye contact with you, assume they're going to pull it in front of you.
And even if they have,
assume they're going to pull it in front of you. You know what I mean? Because it's just, they just don't see you. They just don't see you. And there was a great article. Sorry, Dan. There was a great article. I think it was in Bike Magazine a couple of years ago about the concept of wasps and how wasps attack, because they fly towards you, straight towards you, and you can't then judge the distance of when they're going to get you. And they say that's why people don't see bikes. Because it's such a thin target, people can't judge how close, because it's essentially kind of like that concept to be a wasp or an insect flies towards its prey. And
I suppose,
and that's so that's why people say make yourself as big as you can when you're on the road, so that you're not this tight wee.
Says the man that wants to ride black and yellow bikes. Like a wasp.
Absolutely, yeah. Exactly.
Just to really confuse people in the road. Look at the size of that wasp coming.
The only saving grace for me is, well, I'd still be quite big, so they'd assume the wasp is really close.
And I was just going to say,
Father Ted, big wasp, little wasp. Big wasp, far away wasp, close wasp.
For all I work for a telecommunications company, these things are the worst. That's the thing, and it's not just drivers; it's also pedestrians, because they walk like this.
Totally.
I mean, and it drives me. Even going around Tesco's with a trolley, it drives me nuts.
Phones have a lot to answer for. Just carte blanche, I think. I mean, I am an utter slave to this phone. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I have a look at notifications. I look at like YouTube comments, Facebook, Instagram, emails. I'm even on blooming TikTok, so check that. If you're not checked on TikTok yet, check out TeapotOne, Patreon, all that sort of stuff. And literally the first hour and a half of every single day is just me on my phone, and that's for the rest of the day.
That's before you've done your Wordle. Add your Wordle in there. There's another 30 minutes gone.
Do you know what?
I don't get time for breakfast. You know,
I've not got time for my job anymore. I don't play games on my phone anymore. I ain't got bloody time. Just not on it. There was one time I was doing this Zoom. I had like a Zoom, not a meeting, but it was a get together with a load of people. I'd done a podcast called the Braw and the Brave. Have you heard of the Braw and the Brave podcast?
No.
No, I have not. No.
Lisa, she's a Scottish lassie. She's been running this podcast for 4 or 5 years now. Well, I did one of our very early episodes, and every now and then she gets everybody together for they call it the Braw Blether. So
that's clever.
Yeah, so we were on just having a Zoom chat, and someone was saying this. It was during COVID, during the break, the lockdown. And they were saying, "Oh God, I checked my screen time." She said, "God, it was at like 6.5 hours or something like that." Somebody else was like, "Oh yeah, I looked at mine. It's like 9 hours. I've got a real problem." And I was like, "What's this screen time? How'd you do that?" So they showed me, and I looked. My screen time was something ridiculous, like 21 or 22 hours. And it was at that point when wow. I'd gone full time. And I was literally working 7 days a week, like 20 hours a day, just welded to the computer, just no breaks. And I was like, oh, you got a big issue here. You know what I mean?
That's an intervention waiting to happen right there.
I cancelled all the notifications because I had notifications for everything on my phone. So while I'm working and, something comes in, you're like, bing, I'll have a look, I'll put that down. Bing, have a look, put that down. It's probably why it takes me 5 days to do a bloody video, because I'm constantly like that on my phone. So I cancelled all notifications, and what a difference that made. Massive difference. Yeah. Obviously, over time, they've all come back on now, but yeah.
Until there's another intervention. When you walk in the room and all your friends and family are sitting going, we thought it was time we had a chat.
When you log on to your next podcast and there's 25 windows in front of you instead of 2.
Everyone wants a wee chat.
The intervention podcast, that's it, you know.
Charlie, what you're saying there about the mental health side of things, 100%. I've really missed not being out I used to be out on a bike every single day. I used to commute on it. And I work 7 days a week, so I was riding every single day. And on my days off, I would ride. So I've gone from that to I maybe get out once a month, twice a month, maybe now on the bike. And I didn't realise the effect it was having on me. But I've been in a shit awful mood this year. You know, all this year really, up until probably March. For January, Feb, I was just in a foul mood. Well, me, Fish, and another chap, Martin, he's been on the podcast, the guy that has one leg, the pirate. We, the three of us went out and we basically said, no cameras, let's just go. I had one short bit of filming to do for something I'm doing with the comms. And that was it. So we just went out, 3 lads on bikes, and we just had a hoot. We had such a good time. And I finished that day and I felt $1 million. You know what it's like when you the weight of the world's gone now. And it was just like, fuck, I don't care. I'm in a happy place now. Yeah, I survived today. Let's go.
Like a happiness reset, isn't it?
It's brilliant, isn't it?
I remember I did see you post. You posted on one of the socials saying, listen, best day ever. Didn't have to record, didn't have to do anything. Just 3 guys enjoying the bikes. Yeah. And you're right. It's sometimes just that get out, reset, put a smile on the face, and then it makes all the world of difference.
It's like one of my favourite trips is to go and visit my brother. He lives in Northern Ireland, just in Derry, just right on the border into Donegal. And I love to go, take the bike, go across the ferry, take the long way round, and go and see him. But it's no offence, David, but it's not because I want to see you. It's because I want to ride the bike. You know, if I want to see you, I'll just FaceTime you. You know. But that's not true, David. Honest, and but it's just having those hours to yourself or with somebody on a bike. You know, I'm super looking forward to John and I going across the island, the 2 of us on the bike and making that trip. And even you know, we were saying today, Dan, as soon as I get the new Harley back, you and I are just going to have a day. We're just going to go. Just brilliant. That's it.
Just go.
You know, I
think you're right. It is because
we might take the drone, but we'll go.
Yeah,
you know?
Because I think on a bike you are so vulnerable. You are so susceptible to everything round about you, from the weather right through to other vehicles that are on the road, wildlife, everything. You're not in a car, are you? You're not in a metal bubble. So you're concentrating, and because you're concentrating, you forget about everything else. Yeah. You're not focusing on money problems. You're not focusing on about relationship issues. You're not focusing on, are we going to be fucking nuked next week? You know, you're not worried about any of that. You're just focusing on, look at this corner, happy days. Let's see if we can survive it. You know,
I wasn't worried about getting nuked at all until you mentioned it. You know what I mean?
About flashbacks to the mid-80s now.
About 2 or 3 weeks ago, honestly, I made the mistake of watching the news, because all through COVID, I just refused to watch. I didn't watch the news. I didn't listen to the news. It was just fucking horrific, wasn't it? It was just so negative. Totally. No wonder people were going crazy, because it was horrible. Well, when Ukraine happened, I wanted to see what was going on, you know. So I'm looking at lots of different forms of information, and TV was one of them. Listen to the news, and it was just fucking depressing, because all it was as soon as they got their teeth into, oh, he's got nukes, oh wow, let's see what. It's almost like they were reveling in the fact that, well, this guy's a nutter, he might actually use his nukes. I was like, oh God's sake, don't do that to us, we've just got through COVID.
I can pretty much see fast lane from where I live, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, at least it'll be quick for me, so I'm going to say. You know what I mean?
I was chatting with my brother, and we got onto that topic, and I was like, well, they've got a nuclear bunker he's in a tiny wee village called Comrie, and they had a proper. The Scottish government built a nuclear bunker, but they never, ever used it. So it was a total waste of however millions they made, and it's now being sold on, and it's like a data safe house, now for ranks and ranks of servers. But anyway, so I was saying to him, and I said, "Oh, you'll be all right anyway, won't you? You're in the middle of nowhere." And he said, "We've got Faz Lane up the road," right. And like he ended up googling it, and he's like, "Shit, I'm within the blast radius." Oh no!
Aye.
Wow.
Look at the size of that mushroom.
Yeah. Oh, it's bright today. Look at the sun.
Hey, wow, the sun's out. Quick, get the bike out.
Is he saying Glasgow, taps off?
Taps off. In fairness, the last couple of days we have come out and went, that sun's really bright. Is that the sun? Let's just double check. No, it is. We haven't been obliterated into dust. It's fine.
Well, you got to make use of it in Scotland because it doesn't happen that often.
Oh, that's it. If we get hit at fast lane, right? There's going to be a high percentage of those people just sprawled across the M8 on motorbikes because they've seen the bright light and they've nipped into the garage and wheeled the bike out. Went, "Sonny, I'm away, love. See you later."
Yeah, just one last one. Let's go. Charlie, your question: what's the one thing you hate? Do you know the thing I hate about biking is putting on all the gear. I know you have to, and I will wear it. But it's just a faff in it. Just putting on your clothing, your helmet, and your gloves, and your boots. And just sometimes I just want to jump on jeans, trainers, t-shirt, and off you go. But having scraped a couple of people up off of the road who've done just that, I won't do it.
You're my wife's kindred spirit then, because she said exactly the same thing on Monday. She says, "I love being out on the bike. I just hate putting all this fucking gear on," and I'm like,
I'll be honest, I've done that thing where I'm like, look, I'll just chuck the jacket and the helmet on, I've got my jeans on, I'll be fine. And I was really lucky with that with the Sportster, because I wasn't going very fast. I was super unlucky hitting a bit of D7, but I was only wearing normal jeans.
Yeah.
But as I say, I wasn't going very fast.
I've done it. I've done it as well. I've done that. Yeah.
But you're right. There's that thing where you just look at it and you go, and it's not even as if it's more about. I suppose when I hate it is when your bike stops and all of a sudden your body just starts sweating. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful summer's day. You're going at speed, so you're like, it's lovely and cool. The breeze in there. Jacket's open a wee bit. Then you stop and it just goes.
Temporary traffic lights that seem to be in a different fucking time zone. Yes, and the next thing you're in a puddle. Yeah,
it's fun, isn't it? Isn't it fun? Commuting in and out of London when I used to be on my Jigsaw days, and I'm wearing a blooming 2-piece leather suit, and the bike temperature gauge is reading like 110, 112. You're just like, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm absolutely dying here. Yeah, don't need to worry about that anymore.
No.
Right, next one. Simon Orm. Are you guys okay for time?
Absolutely.
Mate, honestly, just crack on.
Right. Simon Orm, nice one, Bruce. Say hello to the boys. I'll catch up on their content when I get some time to chillax. My question is this: Simon, what is your top box snack of choice whilst touring?
Is the top box big enough? I will say at the minute, one thing I have found lately is the kind of protein peanut butter Snickers bars. And the only reason I'm saying that is because they are literally in one bite. So you could literally just stop, take a bit out, pop it in and carry on. And they're great for just that wee energy boost. You mean, they're my latest kind of go-to. If it's not that, a licorice all sort. Licorice all sort just gives you a massive pick-me-up. Just 3 or 4 of them, massive pick-me-up.
Was it just give you like a insulin boost?
It's just that we can right.
Well, we'll do in it, anything sweet.
Because it's just pure unadulterated sugar. Do you know what I mean?
I like the
doctors listening. I didn't say that.
Yeah, it's maybe not the healthiest option, but I like the the Gorilla. Is it Gorilla? The protein bars. Are they Gorilla bars?
Yeah,
them. That's what I like when I'm on a bike. I like them because I find you can't eat too. Well, I can't eat too big a meal. I just feel when I eat, I don't feel good when I eat. I feel really bloated and horrible. So when I'm out on a bike, I just like something light normally.
But they're quite good to just have a bite out and then wrap them back up again and put it back in. You don't need to eat the whole thing. Yeah. They keep for ages, their thing.
I don't tend to...
You call me weak?
He's like, what do you mean? I do take a bite. It's one big fucking bite and it's gone.
That's like if somebody says take a bite of this bar, you go, don't be greedy. Just take a small piece like everyone else, you know what I mean? I don't tend to take snacks with me. I'll stop somewhere, you know.
That's what I mean. When I stop, that's what I'll grab. When I stop,
I just try and plan my routes around Greg's. So, you know what I mean?
You're Greg's man.
Nothing beats a Greg's sausage roll, in my opinion.
It needs to be one of those apple and pork caramelised sausage rolls.
Fruity sausage roll.
That's a fruity sausage roll.
Again. That level of fat and salt together just does it for me. You know what I mean?
I like the sandwiches in Greg's. I really like the sandwiches in there. I'm not. I like the baguettes. I love the pies in it. Yeah.
I like the baguettes with a sausage roll chaser. You know what I mean? That's it. And I was so pleased.
Tikka panini wrapped up with a cheese and onion pasty. Yeah,
and they've now got a Greg's about 15 minutes off the ferry from Belfast. So you go off the ferry, you're about 15 minutes on the road, and you can pull into a Greg's. So that's me. That's happy days. You know?
I love the thought of it. The first thing you get off the ferry at Belfast, and you see the big Harlem and Wolf yellow things, and it's
Titanic
welcome
exhibition.
to Belfast, Greg's.
Yeah, Greg's. Exactly. So, plan around Greg's, or if not Greg's, then a wee traditional baker's for an iced bun. The old-fashioned iced bun with the and it's not even iced. It's a kind of it's a cream bun, isn't it? But it's got synthetic cream in it. Clearly, I have the healthiest of diets. You know, covered nice in sugar with cream that isn't really cream, but is really just liquid plastic. You know, with more ice and sugar in it.
Yums, discuss.
Yum. Oh, absolutely. I love a yum. I absolutely adore a yum. And Greg's do mini yums as well. So you get a box of them, but they're only
Are you sponsored by Greg's? Is that your podcast sponsored by Greg's?
Greg's, if you're listening, give us a private message and I'll send you my address. But
I've been trying to get Brewdog to sponsor this podcast for the last 2 years. Not a chance.
I tell you what, some of that Brewdog stuff is lethal. Like the Elvis juice.
It's just easy to drink, isn't it?
Aye, but you could run your bike on that.
I get they do a monthly beer club where they give you. They do 4 different kind of specialised beers that they kind of work with, and I've been doing it for a few months now. It's some of the beers you get in that are absolutely delightful. I've got sitting in the fridge a milkshake and salted caramel IPA.
Wow.
Which is made in relation with, is it Joseph's posh popcorn? So it's the same flavouring they use for that Joseph's popcorn. It's the stuff that you've got to take out a small mortgage for if you want to buy it in the cinema. Right?
That's just going to the cinema now, isn't it?
Well, that's just absolutely. I went to see the Batman. It was 19 quid a ticket. I nearly fell.
What's that like, the Batman?
Well, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best Batman movies out there.
I've heard a few people say that.
Yeah, but my neighbour went to see it and he went, yeah.
Huh?
I think if you're into comic books and Batman, then it's like watching a comic book, and it's like watching a really well crafted story rather than just superhero nonsense. So and it's nice because it's it doesn't spend half the film establishing who Batman is, because everyone knows who Batman is now. You're not getting the shot in the alley. You're not getting the perils falling in slow motion onto the ground and all that rubbish that they laboured for every other single film. It is literally
Did you just rubbish Batman's backstory?
He did.
I didn't rubbish
and all that garbage. You know what I mean?
No,
your mother and dad died. Get over it.
No, I'm a massive Batman fan, right? I rubbish the fact that that's all every single film has done. They've actually, it's a detective noir that just happens to have a guy in a cape in it. It's really, really, in my opinion, brilliant. And some people say it's too long, and because there's a point where you think the film's finished, and then you realise it's not, because the way the story works. And to me, that's super clever, rather than I thought it was finished and I've got to save. Never looked at my watch in the whole 3 hours I was in the cinema. Never, just it was totally involved with the whole.
Mrs. Teapot and I are going to go and see that then.
Absolutely,
maybe done.
Let us know what you think, because I think if you like your Batman stuff, then you will love it. I don't know anyone who's a Batman fan who hasn't thoroughly enjoyed the film.
Other than your neighbour Barry Norman.
But no,
Barry
he's
Norman.
No, he's not. He's not a Batman fan, and he's not really a comic book fan. He's a guy
Doesn't like the cinema.
No, he loves the cinema. He's a guy I brew beer with. He's a really, really good friend, right? One of my best friends. But he's the first person who will be talking about Batman and say, "Is this when Hulk does his smash?" And at that point, the comic book geek in me goes, "Oh, whoa, Hodgebus here."
We can no longer be friends.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm moving house.
So if he listens to this and he's wearing a bus to work, Cubby, I apologise, but for outing you, that's that. But he wasn't a big fan of film, but for me, it's probably one of the best Batman films as a complete product rather than bits of it, So,
okay. Well, you sold it. You sold it to me. I'm going to have to go and see it then. Right, next one. Cheers for that question, Moisty. Next one, Pete English. There we go.
Oh dear. By the way, gee, before you read this out, this is my life made now. Pete English has asked a question. My life is made now. I never thought I'd get to this pinnacle in my life, but Pete English is asking a question. Go for it.
Do you know the mention of Pete's name on this podcast has one of two reactions? One similar to what you just said, and the other one, people just go, "Oh no!" Right. So, Pete, hi guys. Hope you're both fit and well. My question: you find yourself needing witness protection, and you can choose where to hide out. Where do you go, and who or what do you take? Keep up the great work and live your life. Cheers, Pete. So, witness protection. Where and who or what do you take with you?
That's New Zealand. There you go. New Zealand, without a doubt.
Have you been?
Yes. That's about 7 months filming Hobbit with John.
Oh, yeah,
amazing.
Of course.
Yeah, amazing, right? It's like Scotland 30, 40 years ago. And the roads, the places you can explore, and obviously I take my bike. So, sorry, Susan, my wife. Sorry, my wife. Sorry.
Waiting for the frying pan in the background.
New Zealand, and in particular in New Zealand, the South Island in the Marlborough region, so that I could just literally forget who I was by drinking my way around all the wineries. You know what I mean? And just drink every single different type of Sauvignon Blanc they've got in New Zealand. That would be
nice.
So, there you go. Okay. That's without a doubt.
What about you, Dan?
I'm going to opt for it. I would definitely take my bike. You know what I mean? Again, you know what I mean? I don't think my wife would be any surprised by that. She'd probably just be upset that she couldn't go and take her bike. Where would I go though?
If you do a Bonnie and Clyde thing, then both of you have to go together, so you're fine.
Aye, that's true.
Plan your crime.
That's it.
For witness protection to work for both of you. Simple as that.
Part of me wants to say I would go to Norway. Purely because I really do. Again, it's a bit like Scotland and steroids. I think I've never driven it. I'd love to go. That's on my bucket list.
Just a beautiful place.
But the only thing is it's like Scotland, so you're not going to get that weather. You're not always going to get.
You do during the summer.
Yeah, but the winters.
Aye. You know what I mean? I think it's from like May till about. I'm not sure when it is. October. October, I think. May till about October, it's nice daylight weather. But then, once you go up to Arctic Circle and north, it's just dark all the time, isn't it? I think I get 1 hour of daylight.
Yeah. Aye, and then the summer comes and you kind of get rid of the daylight.
Yeah. Well, it is 24 hours. Yeah.
I think I'd go somewhere probably. I'm thinking Vancouver, Canada way, just because you kind of get a season or decent seasons. But you also, they're quite good summers, and if need be, you might take a drove. You can drive all the way down through Seattle, do the Pacific Highway. You get just options. I think there. I think I'd go that way rather than do Norway.
I'm with you on that.
Norway, but I'm tired of pissing rain and snow.
Canada up there for me. Yeah, Canada up there for me.
Canada for me, just because it's so vast, and you've got cities there if you want the city thing, but then. You just go north and there's nothing. Yeah. So, what or who would I take? I suppose it'd have to be the wife, wouldn't it? I suppose I could get a bike over there, can't I? So, yeah,
that's a good point. That is a good point.
I'd have to have my dog with me. I'd have to bring Pippa with me.
Oh, I never thought in that. Oh,
yeah, I'd have to have the pooch.
That's a good shout.
I've potentially got some fairly long, big trips next year. If I manage to survive this year and go into next year still doing this full time, then potentially I've got some big trips planned. I'm really worried about being away from the dog.
I miss them terribly. I'm going to New York in a couple of weeks' time for 4 nights, and I'm going to miss the dogs like crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's nuts, isn't it? I was at this retirement do last night, and I mean, I left late from home because I didn't want to leave her on her own for too long. So I got to the retirement do fairly late anyway, and then the whole time I'm there, I'm like, when's the train? We've got to get back. Shocking.
Yeah, totally.
I know. That is that is one of the downsides of owning dogs. But the plus side is the minute you come in the door, it's oh my God, you've been gone for eternity. I'm so glad to see you. It's like every time you walk through the door, it's like an episode of surprise.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Oh, I look at my wife and I'm like, relative.
Yeah, I'm like to my wife, like, why aren't you like this when I come home? What's going on?
She says, because that's usually because you're wanting something. Sod off.
I want to go out on my bike. That's what I want to do. Right. Cool. Nice one, Pete. Cheers for that,
Thanks,
pal.
Pete. Thanks for making my existence. That's superb.
That's it. You've had a Pete English question. Next one, Lee Vigor. Lee was on last week. That's Buddy the Biker Dog. Hi, guys. Good evening to you all. Where in the world would be top of your bucket list to ride? Who with? And what would be your bike of choice? Sort of similar to the previous one.
Yeah.
But given the option to go somewhere, where would you go?
So, having recently watched the Long Way Up, definitely Chile and that neck. There was South America and all the way up. But I'd like to do it in a Honda VFR because I've just got a real. Yeah, it was the first ever motorcycle I ever sat on. My mate had a Honda VFR, and I just would like to kind of go old school retro and just take a VFR and do it because everyone's doing it adventure bikes now, and a bit like yourself, when you're round the world and you're just, you know what I mean, and you're like just bright red, and I mean it's a statement bike now because it's it's kind of so old school, but so I think probably South America and a bright red Honda VFR.
Oh, Richie Vida will be creaming himself. He loves his VFR. Absolutely loves it.
Ian, there's a used one in West Coast Moto. I seen it the other day, and the reason I saw it is because when my wife passed her test, I tried to persuade her to go for a VFR purely so I could get her the insurance and ride her VFR because I'm in the same boat. I think they're absolutely stunning. Would that mean I make if I had any choice of any bike to take, go anywhere? No, I wouldn't pick a VFR. Sorry, Richie, if you're watching. I do love the VFR, but I would probably pick the Diavo. And would
you?
Yeah, I'd pick a Diavo and I'd pick it and I'd go somewhere that had really nice, like the Dragon's Pass or something that had really good twisties. Do you know what I mean? And you were guaranteed dry, great weather. Not entirely sure whether that would be in Australia or in America or somewhere, but yeah, definitely on a Diavo.
Right, where in the world? Bucket list to ride.
This is a pretty shit question for you because you've pretty much driven all of the world anyway.
Do you know there's still loads of places I've never been to though? Like you're talking about South America. Well, I did Chile and I did all up the west, but I didn't really spend enough time exploring those places. But B, I haven't done the centre of South America or the west of South America. It's huge. It's a massive continent or country, and I've missed all that out. So I would certainly like to explore South America. I don't think it's top of my list at the moment. I think at the moment I still want to do Mongolia. It's been on my list since I saw Long Way Round.
Yes.
And I was supposed to do it on the Jigsaw, but I snapped the frame. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I still want to do Mongolia. And what would I do Mongolia on? Cool. It would have to be the Jigsaw, wouldn't it?
Just so that you can then say
Yeah,
You've done it,
yeah, just done it, and I can do that to everybody that moans about me in off road. So yeah, I'll take a jigsaw and
who would you
there,
do? Who would you do it with though? Because I think that was the other part of the question. Who would you go with?
Oh, that's true. That was part of the question, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Ah, yeah. Who with it is part of it.
Yeah. Who would you go with?
Well, I would go with my son because he can speak Spanish. So, from a purely practical perspective, you know.
Not the fact that he's your son and you love him, just the fact that he speaks Spanish.
Yeah,
I've got an interpreter.
Yeah.
I've got a free interpreter on tap.
Exactly.
Cool. I'd have to think about that one. What you, Dan?
I don't know, actually. That's a really, because there's the usual, do you pick a celebrity? Do you pick some of the YouTubers? I think TMF would be a hoot just to go on a runway. But then there's I don't know. Do I pick the wife? I mean, a bit cliched. And then she'll think I'm after something. It's a really difficult question. Difficult question.
I think I would. I have a mate of mine who's again, he's been on a podcast. A guy called Aaron Mitchell. He's ex-military, but he's really into his outward bound stuff. You know, like he would rather sleep outside than in. And like him and his flatmate, they'll often just bugger off into the woods, and he'll make his own shelter. He can navigate. He can navigate without anything. He knows what he's doing. So, and he's ridden around the world as well. So I think I would quite like to do something like that with Aaron. So Aaron, if you're listening and you fancy it, then
Mongolia,
rob a bank and let's go.
Aye. Come and help me fix my jigsaw and get it back on the road, and then
there is that. Yeah.
Aye. But I know. It's just it's really difficult to pin up. You know what I mean? And your idea of who you would want to go with may also depend on what road you want to go with.
Aye.
You know, if you then suddenly go, actually, no, I want to go and do Norway, then I would say definitely TMF, because TMF's done it. Do you know what I mean? And you mean it'd be a hoot and go. But then if I was going to, you mean someone completely different, I'd then go, well, I really want to go with them. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to go a ride with Charlie Boorman, just because it's his fault that I got into biking. I'm going to blame him. And he is the way he is on the telly. Do you know what I mean? If you ever meet him, he's just absolutely brand new. So
I'm gutted actually,
because
I've made the decision not to do the second series of the TV show of Motorbike TV, and they've gone and got him as a presenter. So I'm gutted because I would have been working with the boy. But well, never mind. You make your decisions, don't you?
That's it.
But yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, Charlie and Ewan are why I got into. Well, why I ended up passing my test basically and doing my trip. Yeah. It's down to them. Yeah. Well, and my mum, but
Aye, okay.
Right. Next one, Louise Worsfold. You get stranded on an island and you can only save 3 objects. What are they?
This is like
now, your wife doesn't count. Your wife and dogs don't count as an object,
isn't it? There's somebody scoring us for these questions, and we'll get a print out at the end.
Showing you a shape. What do you think of this? Death, murder,
and then writing on a clipboard.
Next question by Mr. Rorschach. You can only keep 3 objects, but any objects at all.
But I don't think you can clarify. I don't think you can qualify a person as an object.
Yes.
Massive helicopter, just so you can go off the island.
so you can leave.
So you can get off the island. A big boat. Yeah.
A big boat, yeah.
A huge ship.
I don't think that counts. That's not in the spirit of the question, that one, I don't think, to be fair.
I'd need to have something that I could play music on.
Yeah.
Whether that be like a speaker phone combo or something.
I thought you meant like a guitar or something. How are you going to power your phone?
So
or your
the album too busy lying there getting suntanned.
Right, so something to play music on. I think you're right, but I think for me it would be, but assuming you're on an island with no electricity, right?
It's a deserted island, but it's got electricity.
Deserted island,
Wi-Fi.
with a small
sitting there tapping my speaker.
Sounds shit. Why would I go there?
Aye.
I think music's very important.
Aye.
You know, music forms about so to have access to music in some shape or form, be it a speaker and electricity, or be it something even just as stupid as having I say stupid as something as stupid as having a ukulele. A ukulele. I happen to have one sitting right next to me, so it's fine. You know, so but something that you can be creative on.
Yeah.
Even if you're rubbish at it.
I thought you were going to say something I could strum, and then I was like, that was me. I was done. I was out here. I was like, "Hey lads, see you later. I can't hold it any longer."
There was a reason why I didn't say that. That was the very reason. So yeah, something that you can just, you know, be creative upon. You know, in that sense. You know, practical wise. You know, some form of ability to catch food and a really good hunting knife or something like that.
Oh, he's went all Bear Grylls.
That's the lines I was thinking. A multi-tool.
Multi-tool.
Flint and steel, so I can get a fire going.
That really expensive leather, man, that I'm never going to buy myself. So if someone wants to leave it in a desert island for me, I'm okay with that.
Things for getting stones out of horses' hoofs.
Aye. When I'm on a desert island with no horses and no stones, yes, I'll have one of those, please. You'd probably find some sort of use for it, picking dirt out your toenails or something. Oh.
Right, so we've got a ukulele, a multi-tool.
And a change of pants. Just so that you can wash
You're
ones.
Desert Island, run about in the buff.
Exactly.
You'd still suffer from chafing. You know what I mean? You know,
what, in the scud? When you're all scuddy?
I've worn a kilt the proper way, and after 2 hours of dancing at a ceilidh,
whoa.
I was walking funny.
What self-respecting man wears a kilt with pants on? No,
that's what I mean.
Nobody, surely nobody, unless you're English, who puts pants on with a kilt?
Exactly, and I've danced for 3 hours at a wedding like that.
Darren's keeping very quiet. Darren's keeping very quiet.
Which is why when the chafing occurs, I would like some protection down there. So, you know what I mean?
So really, what Ian's looking for is a ukulele, a multi-tool, and an unlimited supply of Sudocrem. That's what Ian's needing on his.
I could go with Sudocrem rather than pants. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm comfortable with that as well. To be fair.
Just running about like Ace Ventura in the buff.
Yeah, that's it.
So a ukulele, a great big knife, and some Vaseline. I'm not getting stuck on an island with you.
No.
Well, as long as you don't sleep, you'll be fine.
Considering the first thing that was mentioned was the butt plug, I suppose absolutely.
What about you, Dan?
I think some form of being able to play music. So whether that's like a speaker with a little solar panel that you can plug in so that there's electricity, Ian.
Right.
And yes, I think you'd need some sort of like a flint and steel, something you can instantly start fire with, so you're not having to bugger about with stones and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can actually cook something that you catch, and then
a couple of Boy Scouts rub together, start a fire.
Aye. And then I think you're right with the multi-tool. I think that's not a bad shout. Do you know what I mean? I think a multi-tool would need to be, you'd need to have some sort of weapon, even just a knife that you could sharpen like a spear so you can catch fish and stuff.
Make yourself a weapon, or something to catch food.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's got to be those three things. Unless this island has roads on it, in which case I'd want something like a wee Honda 250 kind of off-rail dirt bike thing that runs like for 100 miles on a gallon of fuel.
I'd become
I'm assuming there's a Morrison's petrol station on this remote island as well.
A Greg's. I'm okay with a Greg's.
In which case,
ukulele, a multi-tool, and a Greg's.
In which case, I want my bank card, my phone.
He's like, I can put up with chafing as long as there's a Greg's.
Exactly. I'm not going to say. I'm going to say
for the sausage rolls.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
I'm with you on all that as well, Louise. I think mine would be the same. I can't even remember what it was.
Pants. It was pants.
No, I'm not worried about pants. I'd be a multi-tool. I'd definitely be a multi-tool. I think. I mean, I'd want to be playing some sort of music, but I can't play a ukulele. I can't play the harmonica. And I think I would just end up banging things like drums, in which case, I could just use some coconut shells or something. I could make myself a little wee drum kit and I'd do something with that.
And for all the Monty Python fans out there, you could go for a horse ride with your coconut shells as well. So
this is true, very true. You'd want a volleyball, wouldn't you, to do your Wilson, so you've got somebody to chat to.
That's true.
That leaves me one other thing. No Best. I quite like No Best to be on an island with me, because I'm sure she should help me feel a lot better for the times that I'm going to be there. If you don't know who No Best is, Google it or go on Instagram. Oh yeah. Yes. Right, thanks for that, Louise. Cheers. Next one, Chris Jones, Tallboy Rides. Hi, guys. My question for you all. This is the last one from Patreon, by the way. Question for you all. If you could own any one famous movie or TV vehicle, and it could be your only method of transport, what would you opt for? For example, the Miami Vice Testarossa, 007's Aston Martin DB5, etc.
Oh, so that is really tough for me, because I love movie vehicles, of all kinds. And my head went to two things. One was James Bond's DB5. And interesting enough, I've never driven one. I got the chance to drive one, and it was actually belonged to Peter Jackson. I'm name dropping here. Apologies, people don't know. But we were. It was literally the first day I'd landed and gone on set for The Hobbit. We met Peter, and he'd brought his Aston Martin DB5 in, and I just said to him, I said, Peter, I love your car. That's one of my favourite cars of all time. I absolutely adore that car. I said I would love a shot. Kid jokingly said I would love a shot of it, and he said to his assistant, just give Ian the keys, he can take it for a spin.
Jesus.
And at that point,
you wouldn't have seen me for dust.
I know, but I've just done a 32-hour flight halfway around the world. First time I've ever met this man. I've never driven in New Zealand before. And okay, it's left-hand drive, which is nice and handy in New Zealand. But I said, oh no, don't be silly. I couldn't do that. But they're very kind of you. But thanks very much. And then he never offered that again. And I was like,
no,
why did I say that? And then another day he brought Chitty Chitty Bang Bang onto set. He drove that from his house.
Seriously, I was saying Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in my head.
Yeah, so he's got one of them, the hero cars. He bought one of the hero cars. He's actually got a massive collection of things.
Wow.
But it's that, or it's the 1989 Batmobile from the Michael Keaton Batman film, which to me is just the. Yeah, there you go. So James, and if it was a practical vehicle, then it'd be the DB5. If it was totally impractical, and I would happily drive that car for the rest of my life, it'd be the 1989 Batmobile from.
Good luck 3-point turn on that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's your practical car.
It's dead easy. It's got a grappling hook and a lamppost. Have you watched the film?
Oh yeah, that's right. You can go right round in tunnels and everything.
Exactly.
You'd end up grappling some old woman with a cocker spaniel, storing waiting to cross the road.
But to be fair, she was on her phone and never saw it, so it's all right.
Get everything she deserves then.
Exactly. There you go. That'd be me. Yeah.
If it's a car, I think it'd be a DeLorean. I think I'd quite happy, even though they drive really terrible. Do you know what I mean? And they don't go particularly fast and all that. I think it would be a DeLorean. It's one of those ones. It's an iconic car. You know what I mean, from a movie. If it was a bike,
if it could be unrealistic, I'd go for one of the bikes in Tron.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
There's actually a guy built one of those. You know what I mean? In the US. And
Tron bike?
A Tron bike. You should check it out on YouTube. He's built a Tron bike. I mean, it lights up and everything, but you actually can ride it on the road. It looks uncomfortable as sin, right? But it looks amazing. It looks amazing. Yeah. I don't know on a bike front, because you're right. The Tron bike's very cool. The Bat bike for the Christian Bale movies is just something else. Yes. But it's just, you know what I mean? But then there's the. You mean, do you go cliche and pick up a Triumph that's actually supposed to be a BM? Do you know what I mean, for the Great Escape? Or is it Evel Knievel's bike? God, there's way too many bikes out there.
You've got Easy Rider. I mean, you could just take a pick for there.
Oh, you know I've never seen that film. I've still never watched it. I need to watch it.
It's a bit trippy in places.
Is it?
It's a bit trippy in places.
I maybe have a little bit of enhancement when I watch it then.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Or if you're semi-tired, yes, definitely. It's a bit, Yes, it's yes. You look back now and you get that it's a classic, but you still look at it and go, it's a tad dated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's from the time. Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm changing my answer. It's not a DeLorean. Do you know what I would? Do you know what I would have?
Go on.
Smokey and a Bandit.
Oh,
that's a
just as
shout.
you said it, I was like, oh, yeah, the Bandit's car.
Yes, the Trans Am, Pontiac Trans Am.
You've nailed that. Nailed it.
Thank you. I'm here all week.
I thought I was going to win because I was going to say Airwolf.
Oh,
that's good. That's a fair shout, yeah.
I think the Bandit beats it though. Bandit beats Airwolf.
Oh no! I'd quite
you get to wear Stetson and everything. It's awesome.
Know, but again, you mean you could repurpose the helmet for that and go out on the bike. Do you know what I mean? If I could get an Airwolf helmet, I'd be like a pig and you know what. You know what I mean? If I could get an Airwolf helmet for the bike, I would be sold. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, Shuey, if you're listening. In fact, that sounds more like a roof helmet, doesn't it? Roof or bell or something like that.
It does actually sound like a roof helmet. Yes.
Yeah. I've got a roof helmet, black and yellow, fun enough. And
I see a theme.
What is your fascination with Rip Black and Yellow then? Where's that?
Loves wasps.
It's a colour. It's Batman, isn't it? It's Batman. Yeah.
Is that black and? Oh yeah, I suppose it is.
The Michael Keaton Batman.
I thought it was like an orange. Yellow, I suppose. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So you're a proper Batman fan then?
Aye, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very much.
Feel an intervention coming, Bruce.
That's two of us.
I'm currently building. Don't know if you can see it on the shelf. There's where my finger is on the shelf there. That's half of the Batmobile from the Batman film in Technic Lego. I'm halfway through it just now, building it. So yeah, so I'm a Lego fan. So
Darren, that was just like,
I know.
Yeah, he's my mate.
You may see a wee bit of Lego, just one or two bits of Lego.
There's Tower Bridge up there as well.
Tower Bridge there.
That's the Ghostbusters building, isn't it?
Ghostbusters. I can't do it back to front. Ghostbusters building. Have
you got the Millennium Falcon that's like £18,000? Have you got that?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like 800 quid, isn't it?
700. Yeah. Aye.
Yes. Ian has enough of a Lego collection that he could sell it and buy a new bike. And I kid you not.
No, but I priced it all up. Yeah. That was one of the reasons I got to buy the second bike, was if I sold some of my Lego to pay for the deposit.
Seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So ask me how much of my Lego I've sold to pay for the deposit.
You'll get people knocking at your house. Better not.
I know.
Breaking into his house.
Yeah. In fact, in front of me, I have got the Lego Harley Davidson sitting all built slowly.
Oh, I didn't know they did one of them. I've got this. My wife bought me the GS a few Christmases ago, and she's still got the arse with me because I've never built it. I've still not built it yet. It's down there somewhere.
It's not enough. I've not actually built the Millennium Falcon. It's still sitting in the box.
Oh, is it?
It's probably worth more.
Yeah. I don't have the space.
Box.
I don't have the space to display it, and I'm telling you, if I'm going to spend a week building that thing, I want to put it somewhere and let people know that I built it. You know, I'm like, I don't think so.
Aye.
But no, I've got a couple more bikes. I've got the Ducati as well that they brought out, and the Harley. So
and the Harley's a fat boy, isn't it?
Fat boy, yeah.
The Harley's a fat boy.
Nice. It's got to be in it for a Harley. It's got to be.
To get it down, actually. I'll maybe able to get it as I move my 1960s Batmobile down.
Although he refuses to buy the BMW RR 1000 RR Lego one.
This is a BMW, no offence.
And they want 175 quid for it.
Oh wow! Blimey, yeah. Big old bugger, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? So.
And if he drops it, it breaks into the same amount of bits as a normal Harley.
It goes through the floor. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, I've not dropped that one yet. It's only some of the real Harleys I dropped. So
there you go.
There we go.
Says me doing
it.
Although, if you turn up at my house with Airwolf and I've got the Trans Am you want to swap, I will swap you quite happily.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah.
Good.
And I wasn't thinking planes. And
nobody
stuff
mentioned.
Like
I think I'd do swapsies on that.
The Zebra. Nobody's mentioned the Zebra. Zebra One. Zebra One. That was the call sign for Starsky and Hutch.
Was it?
Yeah, Zebra One.
Oh, see, if I ever do a pub quiz again, Ian, you're the man. Yeah, you're my team.
Although
you're a fountain of seemingely useless information, which will come in handy at certain times.
Yeah, it does, but if you want me to have useful information in my head, you are screwed. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? Another car I liked. I know we're motorbike podcasters and YouTubers talking about cars.
I have anything on this podcast.
However, there used to be a program with Don Johnston back in the 90s called Nash Bridges.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Remember that? And he drove a yellow Barracuda Hemi. I would have one of those.
Sure, I don't remember the car.
It's like a convertible thing with like fins. Right. Remember the HP4 that BMW did, and it had the kind of fins cut into it? Yeah. Well, the Hemi Barracuda's got those in both sides. It's mint it, and it's also yellow and black, Ian.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Google that.
He's Googling it as we speak.
Hemi Barracuda.
I've typed Nash.
That is us through Patreon questions. So thank you very much, people, for leaving.
Yes, thank you, Clan. That was awesome.
Lovely. Thank you so much, guys.
Do you know what? I just realised we're 2 hours, 15 minutes into the podcast and I haven't done any sponsor readouts. I'm really sorry. My plan is to do the sponsor readouts live as we're filming these. So do you boys mind if I give a couple of shout outs on my sponsors?
Go for it, yep.
So I didn't bring them up. Bear with me 2 seconds. Where have they gone? Right, I'll just have to type it in. Sponsor. God, that's terrible. This is very unprofessional. That's what happens when you have beer. Right. Okay. So the podcast, we are sponsored by Ultimate Add-ons. Now, there's some blurb for me to read out, folks, but you know the score. If you listen to the podcast, you hear this week in, week out. Ultimate Add-ons, they do mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions, and they do cases for your mobile phones. So if you watch any of my bike reviews, I'll always have an Ultimate Add-ons case there for my mobile phone. I've generally got Kalimoto running as well on that for navigation. And these cases, they're vibration-proof, shock-proof, waterproof, weatherproof, everything like that. You can clip it on and off the bike. You can keep it in the case while you take pictures. You know, you can do all sorts with them. I've been using them for 4 or 5 years now. Not had a single problem with vibration affecting the camera when I use the Helix strap mount. The way the system works is you buy like the mounting solution for your bike, which one you want to use, and you buy the case for your specific phone or a generic phone case. They click together and off you go. The mounting solution I use is something called the Helix strap. It's in the pedal cycle section, but it's just a ratchet strap which you can attach anywhere on the bike. Keeps it nice and safe and attached to the bike there. And using that, I've had no issues whatsoever in nearly 5 years with vibration from that. So that's the one I recommend. If you head to ultimateaddons.com, use the code TeapotOne, so all letters, word TeapotOne, with the number 10, you'll get 10% off. So a massive thanks to them for their support. I'm going to have to do 2 in this bit. We are also sponsored by the Influencer Store, and I'll read out their blurb. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there's no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk. If you go to my website, TeapotOne.com, if you go to the store, if you've bought any merch, that is all handled by the Influencer Store. I moved to them from Spreadshirt and Teespring and people like that purely because the quality of that stuff when you buy it online is crap. You wash it 3 or 4 times and it just either shrinks or it falls apart. So I went with the Influencer Store because they did Richie Vida's merch and I really like the quality of his stuff. So that's why I went with them and people seem to like it. So massive thanks to them for their support. Yes. And as Darren is modelling there, he's got one of the Nationals t-shirts on. Sorry, Nationals t-shirts. Right, there's another 2 sponsors to go, but we'll cover that in a sec. Right. Let's head across to Instagram. Are you boys still okay for time?
Absolutely, perfect. No problem. Yeah, good.
Beautiful. Good. Let me move this across here. We'll head across to Instagram. So that's at TeapotOne Insta. I'll leave the chaps, all their socials. I'll leave them down below, folks. So if you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching the YouTube vid, make sure you check out the description. If you're watching it on the telly, you're going to have to go onto a phone, a tablet, a laptop, or a computer, something like that. Check out the description. You'll see the links. So, first one is from Sid13. Question for all. What is your favourite helmet design you've seen?
Cheeky bitch.
Oh, go on.
That's my eldest daughter.
Oh, is it?
Cheeky bitch.
Go on, what's the story?
Somebody's not getting an 18th birthday present.
What's the story behind that then?
Do you know why she's doing that? She's a massive Formula One fan, right?
Oh, okay.
Actually, not just Formula One. She started watching MotoGP, but she loves Formula One, Formula 2, Formula 3. She does watch a little bit of Formula E. She's into, which it strikes me as bizarre then. She thinks that motorbikes are death traps. Those things are like even bigger death traps. But she loves all that kind of stuff. And obviously, with F1 just starting back, all the guys that are obviously on their socials promoting their helmets and stuff like that. And she's taken a notion to start getting interested in like the decals and how guys are, you know, what their helmets mean and all that kind of stuff. So that's, I think, why she's asking that question. Oh, wait, I see her. To use another Scottish phrase, she's going to get leathered. Do I have one? Fun enough, we were distracted talking about this a couple of weeks ago, weren't we? I can't remember how we got on it, but we're talking about...
We're chatting away about it, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I think the one that I'd picked out was the... Oh, what was it? It was an Aria. The
samurai, the kind of samurai...
Pedrosa.
Oh, the RI's one, yeah.
The one with the kind of samurai and the thingy on it, and I was like, I says that is absolutely. I think it's discontinued now, but I was like, that is absolutely stunning. And obviously, having my new bike's orange, it's the Baja orange, and that would just look even better on my bike. I know it's not an adventure helmet, but I don't care. It would look absolutely minted. But the other one that I'm liking at there's a couple I like at the minute. I like the new Ruroc Atlas 4s. There's, I mean, the ultramarine one is just.
They always do some really bold helmet designs, don't they? I love the look of the lids. I genuinely do, I think they're great. Really nice.
The Rafa, HCC's Rafa 1, the Esparago one, the kind of light blue one, which has got a geometric wolf thing on the top. It's just absolutely tremendous. I think it's just stunning, but it's like 750 knots, and I ain't paying 750 knots for a helmet.
A lot of money these days, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a couple of really decent helmets for that. So
I was gobsmacked with like the LS2. LS2 sent me their, is it the Pioneer Evo lid, which was their sort of adventure style lid, and it's 70 quid you can pick this lid up for, and it's a great lid. I mean, you can't compare it to like a Shui or an Arai or something like that, but it's 70 quid. It passes all the safety tests. It'll do the job. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, wow, 70 quid and you're getting that? I was pretty impressed with it.
That is quite good. Because I'm at the point, going back to an adventure bike, I'm going, I really should get an adventure helmet. Just for the sake of, do you mean being that full kit wanker? Do you know what I mean? And making sure that you've got the right gear. Even though I might not use it all the time, at least I've got it. Do you know what I mean? And if anything, it might be handy for like sticking all your cameras and stuff on, so that when we are out and we start vlogging and doing demos and all that stuff, at least all the kit's on that helmet, and then I'm not sticking it onto like my current helmet, which is quite an expensive helmet. So
yeah, I know what you mean. Do you know what? When I was a huge part of my riding when I was on the sports bikes, anyone on a GS in a rucker kit with an adventure style lid that wasn't doing the Dakar rally or something, I was just like, you are a total loser. You've given up on life. I am that man now.
You are that person now.
I am that one.
But that's because. But do you not think that's because you suddenly realised that the rucker gear, for all it's super expensive,
it's best kit I've ever worn.
You're getting a 300 quid duck down liner, which I mean you can wear all the time. Even when you're not on a bike, do you know what I mean?
Until your dog jumps up and puts her claw through it and rips it open. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah. That was a bit rough, wasn't it?
Hey! Very good. See what you did there.
If we were on my podcast right now, that'd be our podcast right now. Sorry, Ian. That would be a rim shot. That would be a rim shot.
That would
be a
sound effect coming in.
I am.
There you go.
There we go.
Hey. For me, we're talking about the Ruroc helmets, and actually, you're right. Some of the designs are really bold, but it's also been one of the most disappointing designs. Was Ruroc for me? They brought out, funnily enough, Batman helmet, right? So I've got the
they stepped into your world, didn't they?
They did. They stepped and didn't do it well. Although that's not fair. The Joker helmet looks brilliant. I think the Joker helmet looks great. But I've got the HGC Batman helmet from the Justice League films, and I love it. Right? I think it's a great design. You know it's Batman. The Ruroc one was like really subtle, and I'm like, I don't want subtle. I want a big fuck off silver bat on the top of the helmet. Thanks very much. As opposed to a black helmet with a wee bit of a bat just at the side, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I was disappointed with that. But it's funny because we were talking about. I just love anything retro, anything really retro looking. So, and actually, we were saying why. I mean, there probably is reasons why you don't want to have an Evel Knievel helmet. But some of that old-fashioned red, white, and blue stars and stripes, numbers on the side type thing. Anything that looks that kind of 70s retro kind of look to me is certainly suits the Triumph. It suits the styling of the Street Cup really, really well. And that kind of old fashioned. And Bell do a lot of quite nice kind of retro looking stuff. Not a big fan of open face helmets, although I do have one, but it's only because it looks like an X-wing fighter pilot helmet. That's
I was going to say those retro style lids had a bit of a comeback, didn't they? And
yeah,
I think it's tailing off a little bit now, but it certainly came with Triumph's certainly probably one of the main players behind that revival. Yeah. The cafe racer, the hipster sort of influx that we had into biking. It was, the designer jeans and designer jackets that were all coming out. So it all came with that scene, didn't it? I don't know if that's as big as it was, but it was certainly. But it's a style
I will always like, because I think it is, it's got its up and downs, but it's kind of timeless to a certain extent. None of it looks rubbish. It's just whether or not it's in. But it doesn't. It looks great. It's classic. It's dead simple, And there was one we looked at. I think it was it a showy one that we saw that we were talking about, and it was kind of white, well, just with kind of a couple of stripes down the side and a particular number on it. I can't remember.
That's right.
It was just like dead simple.
Yeah.
And sometimes less is more. Yeah. And those kind of things,
I do like the shoeies. I've got to say, I'm a big fan. I think it's just because it's the first lid I ever bought was a shoei, and I've sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, see,
they've just felt right.
Your shoei adventure one, the white and red that goes with the bike. Yeah, I like that helmet.
Yeah,
that's a nice helmet.
Yeah. It's the second one I've had. Obviously, that's the first sort of Hornet ADV I bought. Got that on a really good deal at I think it was at the London show. It might have been the NEC show. I bought that, and then I've got that one there. Yeah, I like that. I got that for the TV show actually. So thank you very much, TV show and Shoei, for that one. Thank you. Right. Before we move on to the next question, I think the next question is the last one, boys. So I've got to fit in the last sponsor straight away. Sorry, I should have remembered these much earlier on. And that is Innov. Now, if you follow the main TeapotOne channel, folks, you'll know Innov sponsor that main channel. They specialise in motorcycle dash cam systems. They've got a single sort of C5 system, which you can wear on your lid, or you can attach it to the bike. But they also do a dual cam system. Started with the K2. Not sure if they do the K2 anymore, but they do the K3 and the K5. K3 is a 1080. K5 is the flagship 4K front camera, 1080 rear. Both the K3 and K5 come with a remote external mic. So I'll even vlog with that. I'll put the mic up into my lid and I can vlog. They've got GPS tracking on them. They've got parking modes so that even when that's activated, even when you switch the bike off and move away from the bike, any movement of your bike will activate the camera system and, capture whatever in front of the cameras at that time. A lot of people say, is there any need for it? A lot of people say, I don't want something like that on my bike because it's going to sort of record everything I do. And it's a sort of tale of two halves there. Yes, it does exactly that. It records absolutely everything that you do. So for me personally, it has calmed me down massively when that's on my bike. The positive of it is if anything does happen, it's captured, it's there. And from someone that's been involved in a couple of accidents, commuting wise, if I'd had the system on my bike then, certainly 2 out of 3 times, it definitely would have been in my favour and it would have proved it. Because otherwise, if you get involved in an accident and you're on a bike, if there's no witnesses and there's no CCTV, generally at absolute best, it'll go a 50-50 most of the time. They just, for whatever reason, insurance companies just tend to go 50-50 if there's a bike involved. You need to have a witness or CCTV. And if you've got one of these fitted, you're covered, as long as you're in the right. That's the big. If you head to Innov, so it's innovv.co.uk. Actually, scrap that. If you go to the link down below, I've got an affiliate link down below now. I don't get any money back for that, but it does track that you've come from me, and that helps me in terms of securing Innov as a sponsor, because obviously they want a return on their investment. So if you go to the show notes down below, whether you're listening to the podcast or if you're watching the video, check out the description. If you could use that link, it helps me out massively. If you use the code TEAPOT, TEAPOT, you'll get 5% off of any of their cameras. And then the last sponsor is you folk out there. So you people who are watching the vids, you people out there who are liking, commenting, you are a massive help to me. If you're buying merch, it's a huge help. If you're over on Patreon, it is a huge help. I couldn't do this without the Patreon support, to be blunt. It just wouldn't happen. I couldn't go full time without that. So a huge thank you from me for watching the vids, listening to the podcasts, liking the social media posts, and basically keeping me going. So thank you. Gents, sorry about all that. I'll come back to you. Yay, thank you very much. Right, last question. Sean Clifford. Hello, Bruce, Darren and Ian. Hope all is well. Question for both of you. Would you rather have your clothes always be wet or have your legs always be numb? Love the podcast. Cheers from Montreal. I love these questions. Oh. These would you rather.
From Montreal. Merci.
Merci.
Easy. That's wet clothes. Because you can ride with wet clothes. You know what I mean? And you've been into Phoenix training. You probably know that you can ride with wet clothes. It's not an issue. It's slightly uncomfortable, but it's still doable. Numb legs. You know what I mean? I've got to be blunt. You're not getting off the toilet pan in the morning with numb legs.
Just the way to say, you know, when you sit in a pan for too long, it's horrible. Aye. You get up here you're like a drunk Elvis, aren't you, when you first get up?
Aye. You know what I mean?
Mercy.
Shouting through, darling, I'm stuck again.
I don't know. It depends how far up the legs you get numb. Do you know what I mean?
Go on. Do tell.
If you can still, I'm intrigued now. If you can still bench your knees, you know, then potentially I might be okay with the numb legs if I can still bend my knees.
But if you've got numb feet, you can't walk properly, can you? You're all over the shop trying to go up and down stairs with numb legs.
You haven't seen Ian walking.
You haven't seen me walk. I was going to say, as a baby when we were born, I had problems with my feet, and I got operations and things in my feet when I was very, very young. So if it wasn't for amazing surgeons and things, then I probably wouldn't. I would be either I'd be walking constantly around in a circle, or kind of trying to fold into myself. I don't know, but anyway. So by the miracle of modern science, I can walk and ride a bike and everything. I reckon if it was, as long as it was below my knees, I could probably adapt quite well and still be dry. You know, but
me and Darren are walking around with puddles everywhere.
Come on, be funny. If my clothes are constantly wet all the time, I could cut down so much time going to the bathroom.
That's and potentially keep yourself warm. And there they go. And I just reckon if the drummer of Def Leppard can drum with one arm, I can ride a bike with numb legs. So
do you know what? Yeah, I mean,
where there's a will, there's a way.
The human body's incredibly adaptive, isn't it? And I think you're right. You'd find a way, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But, absolutely.
Good point.
And also,
I'm still going to go with wet clothes.
When my dogs get overexcited and start nipping at your ankles, I'll not care. So they can crack on.
Chew away.
Fine.
Chew away, Jeff. Crack on.
That's it.
Right, gents, that is us going through all the questions. That's 2.5 hours. I really appreciate you sticking around for that length of time.
No, that was good.
It's like the Batman film. I never even noticed it. You know what I mean?
Can I pass it over to you boys then? Feel free, plug your podcast, plug any of your social media, plug anything you like. Over to you.
Anything you like. On my eBay chat, no, that's not true.
OnlyFans.
Does anybody want a Lego Millennium Falcon? No.
I've got more spare bits I need for my Harley. Yeah, anyone who out there that just, check us out, give us a listen, feel free to comment and stuff. Obviously, Bruce will tie in all the links and stuff.
Absolutely.
But by all accounts, give us a listen. Again, we don't take ourselves way too seriously. I hope you've seen that in the last 2.5 hours. Yep. We just like to talk nonsense and just kind of put a little bit back out there. And sometimes we all go off on a tangent. We make that abundantly clear. We do go off on a tangent. So yeah, give us a check out. And if you like us, great. If you don't, well, nothing lost.
Give us a check and give us a check in. If you have listened, let us know you've listened to us from the podcast here. You've picked up, and we're always looking for suggestions, big questions, all these kind of things that we can chat about and discuss. And if you've been listening and you want to come onto our podcast, drop us a line. We'll talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere. We are the Martini Podcast. Anytime, any place, anywhere. There we go. That'll be us.
It was really nice to be invited on to yours, so thank you very much for inviting me.
I was quite shocked actually when you said that you don't often get invited on. I'm like,
no, don't.
I find that bizarre.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. People seem to think that you're inundated with like invites onto podcasts and to go and do collabs and press event. No, don't get any of it. Very rarely any of it.
Well, mate, you're always welcome on ours. So if you ever feel if you ever get something you want to promote, shamelessly, then by all means, give us a shout, and we'll quite happily put you on there to the world. Well, I say to the world, our little small world, but it's still, it's getting there anyway.
Average bikers in a cave with no shame. That's us.
I've got a question, but if you could have one guest on the show, who would it be?
Joe Rogan.
Oh, he went straight there.
Oh, I'd love to chat with him. I just think he's such an open, not an open book. He's such a character with depth. He knows, he's got a knowledge of so many different topics because he's had so many different people on, and he seems to be somebody who is open to a conversation. He's open to hearing another side, but he'll argue. If he thinks he's right, he will argue his point. But he's, at the same time, he's open to listening to your side of the story. And I would really like to have a conversation with him for sure.
Just email him, see what happens.
Yeah, sure he would. Yeah, no worries.
Just tell him that Ian and Darren told you to give him a shout.
He'll be like, who?
If he's an Outlander fan, drop John's name in. You never know.
That's it. We'll be in. We'll be in. I tell you what, we've got to do Outlander tours, don't we? We need to chat and make sure we sort that out. Yeah, we'll get that up and running.
I did speak to John about it. He'd if he's around and about, he'll pop in and say hi during the.
Really?
He'd love to. He'd love to come up. And
Brilliant.
If he's
fantastic.
If he's available.
Well, we'll have a chat, and we need to do something with that because that's a goer for sure. Absolutely. Okay. Right, gents, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. My back teeth are floating. I need to go for a pee. Folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. Make sure you check out the show notes down below. Make sure you give the lads a follow, a like, a subscribe. Make sure you check out the podcast. Folks, what can we say other than keep on doing your thing? Get on out there whenever you can. But most importantly, live your life. Woo-ha! Yeah. Cheers, boys. Thanks very much for that. Brilliant. I'll stop that. So